Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon, Bobby. Good afternoon, Rishi. Yes, sociology, the optional subject, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, welcome to Unacademy. This is Success Sampath interacting with you, ladies and gentlemen. Yes. Do you want to become IAS, IPS, IFS, IRS? We Unacademy, with top educators of India, and meticulously design quality content. We are waiting for you to shape you, especially, that so that you realize your goal. Once you enroll yourself in an academy, ladies and gentlemen, you will undergo a great learning experience. Let me also welcome some other people who have joined here. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to An Academy. Yes, this is Success Sampath interacting with you. Yeah, you're right. Fantastic. Yes, this is right time. Yes. You know very well, An Academy, India's largest and the best online education platform. What are all the benefits you are likely to get once you enroll yourself in an academy? If you ask me, you will have daily live classes and you will have your own chat with educator and you can engage in all-round discussions, especially the productive discussions. And you can also ask your genuine doubts and you can participate in the answer polls. All these things you can do when the session is going on. You have structured classes here, structured sessions, structured courses in alignment with pattern of the examination of UPSC as well as the syllabus, so that you never get deviated from the expected framework. It's not knowing the stuff, knowing to deliver the stuff. You know very well, delivery matters. It's not what you deliver, rather how do you deliver. That comes you make difference with the rest of the people in the world. There we have got evaluation mechanism to assess you, especially in your various stages of preparation. We have got regular mock tests and quiz programs so that you get detailed analysis or report based on your performance. You will come to know where you are strong, where you are weak, and you also come to know that how much time you took in solving a question. And beyond that, you've got unlimited access. Once you enroll yourself, you've got unlimited access to the live and recorded videos, and you can learn from anywhere, anytime, thanks to technology. Not only that, whatever may be your electronic device, whether it is mobile phone, whether it is laptop, desktop, definitely you can. That once you enroll, you will be accessible to all the benefits part of an academy. Ladies and gentlemen, what you have to do, you are supposed to download an academy learning app at once, immediately. Whether it is Android or iOS, once you download, you are ready to that avail all the benefits part of an academy. Ladies and gentlemen, who is this interacting with you? Yeah, of course, I said Success Sampath from Chennai. I've got the unique experience of that getting exposed to the field of engineering education, management education, and legal education. With 25 years of experience, ladies and gentlemen, especially in coaching people for civil service examination, with my team, I could witness 250 plus results as IAS, IPS, IFS, and IRS. My kids are working in different parts of India and abroad as well. What is the vision of this Success Sampath? If you ask me, by enabling Indian youths, we want to provide, as a team, we want to provide career solution. Fortunately, this particular vision of mine is completely in alignment with an academy. Ladies and gentlemen, if you want to reach me, that apart from our live interaction here, you can also, that access the Telegram channel and YouTube channel where you can access me through my ID, Success Sampath, or even Sampath Thiruvengadam. Ladies and gentlemen, this is right time. Let's move. It's not only me. We've got, more than 100 plus top educators of India, part of this an academy, waiting to shape you, ladies and gentlemen. Part of UPSC Civil Service Examination, the program, we've got more than 15,000 courses, subject specific module, duration specific module. Ladies and gentlemen, you will come to know. Not only that, two major programs part of UPSC Civil Service Examination, we say plus program An iconic program. What is this plus program? If you ask me, you got live classes, test series, unlimited practice sessions, structured schedule mechanism. You can choose either 12 months program or 24 months program according to your convenience. Use my referral code say success to avail 10% discount. And not only that, as I told you, you got another program that's called Iconic. What is this? It is very unique program with unique feature. What is that? More than advantages of the plus program, you will be allotted a personalized coach, a personalized mentor to understand your nature and to suggest the very study planner accordingly. And you will get personalized feedback, that too, and beyond that you will be trained every day in terms of answer writing practices. Ladies and gentlemen, so we strongly recommend this particular program because you are going to prepare for that next 2 years. I think it will be highly that suitable to your needs. And here too you have 12 months program, 24 months program. Please use my referral code say success to avail 10% discount. Technically speaking, you end up paying mere 80 to 100 rupees per day basis, but you don't have per day basis payment. And technically speaking, I'm for practical consideration I'm talking. It's not even the expenditures of your evening snacks, ladies and gentlemen, but you ensure your career. And that too, that with India's the best top educators, that waiting on the part of Unacademy to assist you so that you realize your dream. The very purpose of our interaction. Before going there, ladies and gentlemen, that let me also invite Ambuj Pandey. I think that you please download. You got free sessions already. You please go through that, Ambuj Pandey. And after that, that you can interact with platform, and there you got all details available, the optional courses, that all, whichever course you want to join, and you can get the details there. I think you please download that Unacademy app for that particular purpose. Yes, let's come to today's point, today's interaction, the very purpose of interaction. Very well, the very popular optional subject called sociology, which is highly scoring. Apart from optional subject, you also get good score in your GS paper as paper 1 society chapters, even your ethics case studies portion 130 marks, and beyond that you got that out of 8 domains part of essay, 1 domain meant for this society portion, so you can also write 1 good essay. And this understanding what you develop out of the subject matter called sociology, the optional subject, through key terms, through your basic understanding in terms of the basic concepts, they act as a foundation. You understand the perspectives, you come to know about the society very well, so that you can also participate in the interview. You can perform in the interview very well, ladies and gentlemen. Not only that, so and in what way we can score here, today's purpose we are talking about, and even your day-to-day life, that's what I come to know. So for every coin you got 2 sides, you start understanding. So it's not the seeing only one side of the coin and making opinion about it. You become judgmental later, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah. You got plus programs, Ambuj Pandey. Parallelly, you just watch all the free programs available, and after that you think about it, and that is what we want. Okay, right? You see the quality, then you will be naturally joining the program. Let me assure you, ladies and gentlemen, it's that way. Yes, today's interaction. So there will be that introduction. Of course, I gave brief introduction about sociology to some extent. In what way it is related to UPSC Civil Services Examination. Then you got one very, very important unit, especially the sociology optional subject, paper 1, where you got thinkers portion. And even in our days, when we were preparing like you, we used to tell, if you're very strong in thinkers, paper 1, nothing. With that, you can score good marks in paper 1. And even to understand the very subject matter, sociology, you need the support of all these social scientists, sociologists, social thinkers, where you got around 5 thinkers, people like Karl Marx, Immanuel Durkheim, Max Weber, Talcott Parsons, Archimedes, G.H. Mead, representing different perspectives of sociology. That's very, very important chapter. If you understand these thinkers, what they said, that becomes concepts, that becomes theories. Even in theories portions, institution portions, even in the case studies, even you are going to apply in Indian context, that's called paper 2, you are going to bring back all these thinkers once again. Of course, in paper 2, you got Indian sociologists also. So from thinkers, you come to know the subject, especially the social institutions, the theories, perspectives. From institutions, that syllabus also you will come to know about thinkers. It is that way you understand the complete subject matter called sociology. So in that, that path, the first we are going to introduce, one of the founding fathers of sociology, I can say, otherwise the founder of the conflict school of thought, otherwise the conflict perspective, called Marxist perspective, otherwise even called Marxism. So Karl Marx, we are going to introduce you today, and very, very important. And you got other thinkers also to balance this Karl Marx and Max Weber. You got structural functionalism school of thought. There you will come to know Emile Durkheim, Talcott Parsons, R.K. Merton. Emile Durkheim, that these people will be balancing two different perspectives. You will come to know, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, after that, that it's going to be today, it's going to be completely centered around Karl Marx, all of his contributions, and criticism over every contribution. That is what the agenda today. So we will be talking, brief about Karl Marx, then his contributions, namely historical materialism, the mode of production, alienation, the class struggle. This is what part of the syllabus also, ladies and gentlemen. And through what resources you can enrich your understanding apart from our live interaction today. Ladies and gentlemen, I think, yes, you please try in whatever way you want, that you can download Unacademy, that app, and you will come to a lot of information. Sheikh Ahmed, it's up to you. Ladies and gentlemen, we don't force. We respect your opinion. Ladies and gentlemen, it's that way. It's right time, let's move. Right. Yes, I told you, society, study about society, science of society, that is what sociology. But society, very well, system or network of social relationship. So in the name of sociology, you study about social groups, social institutions, or system or network of relationships existing among human beings. That very well. Right? No need of, that, because you please watch all my previous videos also, part of YouTube, the grand strategy and basic concepts, and part 1, part 2, part 3, like, we have discussed. Right? It is that way. Even perspectives we have discussed. You please go through, you will develop more ideas. And that today we are introducing thinkers portion of paper 1 syllabus called sociology, the thinkers, sociological thinkers, the first Karl Marx. Ladies and gentlemen, yes. In what way it is presented in the syllabus? What way this subject matter sociology related to UPSC Civil Services Examination, especially mains, that as optional subject. As I told you, the syllabus, sociology syllabus, paper 1, you have thinkers portion where we are touching this particular, that the portion of the thinkers. Today's discussion centered around this part of the syllabus of thinkers portion, paper 1, sociology. Ladies and gentlemen, it's about Karl Marx. As I told you, even the, that the content we have seen, the historical materialism, mode of production, alienation, class struggle. Our class today, it's going to be, that, even I'll be touching more than 2 hours. And because you need that much time, it is very strong foundation in terms of Karl Marx, ladies and gentlemen, and you can learn with me. Once you understand this, I think, after that, you need not refer anything. You parallelly sit with me, with paper and pen, you take notes. You complete the purpose, ladies and gentlemen. It is that way. Yes, I think it is right time. Let me take you to the next level. Karl Marx, Karl Heinrich Marx. Who is this Karl Marx? If you ask me, you are directly connected with this person, even today. Your parents would have told you, your relatives, your friends, everybody would have told you. See, if you don't have material resources, if you don't have money, no one will respect you. If you have money, you don't know others. If you don't have money, others will not know you. That is practical thing. Of course, that when you see people, otherwise people see you in terms of money. When it is that consideration, you can't, that outrightly reject that particular opinion also. That's true. Even to complete a day-to-day life, even to run the country, even to run an organization successfully, definitely you need material resources. There comes Karl Marx. This is what. The Karl Marx in his lifetime got affected by, that absence of economic resources, the abject poverty he lived in. Sometimes he used to hide himself from the threat of, that lenders. So he was running after money. That resulted in, that maybe pushed him to think that, important role played by money in lifetime. Because, for every idea, you got historical roots. It is that way. The Karl Marx It's not an exaggeration. So the Karl Marx version is that, important role played by economic resources. In life, the struggle is because of to have ownership over that particular economic resources. That struggle, why the struggle has got its own root in exploitation. A guy who has got ownership over economic resources naturally will tend to exploit others. Otherwise, he will try to that maintain that position. For that, he has to indulge in exploitative measures. It is that way. So it's centered around money is the matrix here. And the whole struggle, that's what the history of hitherto all existing struggles, full of the history of all existing societies, let me put this way, full of struggle between haves and have-nots. Got the idea? That is a major statement we are talking about. Not only that, even today all trade union movements, you will come to know, the workers of the world unite together. You have nothing to lose but your chains, bonds, the bonds of exploitation. But you have a world to win. It's almost like, he behaved like a messiah and trying to be part of the solution and provide solution. So for all this antagonism, class struggle, exploitation, by revolution you can reach classless communist society. That is what the political goal of the Marxism. The establishment of classless communist society. You got various versions of Marxism you speak. Socialism. Everything is for everyone. No owner, no worker. All, that everything is for everyone. All resources are equally shared by all the members of the society. It is that notion you come to know. So the founder of that particular tradition, of course, none other than this Karl Marx. Ladies and gentlemen, we talk about, it is that way. Otherwise, that even, I don't know, that there are people from other states also. Even in Tamil song, that உழைக்கும் தோடர்களே ஒன்று கூடுங்கள் நீங்க நல்லா இருக்கோனு நாடு முன்னேற. I think old song, you would have heard somewhere in the party propaganda, the roadside. All trade union movement, the essence drawn from this, Karl Marx. The revolutionary movement, ladies and it's all about, the clarion call from, the Karl Marx, the world proletariats, the world working class, come together. You have nothing to lose but your chains. You have a world to win. It is that way, ladies and gentlemen. So the Karl Marx, we are going, it's a brief, the thing, but you have to understand more about, then only you can appreciate all of his contributions. You will find relevance. We are not going to leave Karl Marx also. We are going to attack him. We are going to criticize him, and rightly. From the perspectives of the sociology, you got structural functionalism, you will come to know everything, ladies and gentlemen. So this Karl Marx, basically called economist because important role played by economic resources in life, because he was trying to understand his own life. Very well, very birth of sociology came in response to various revolutions happened in Europe. The Europe was the venue. At the end of 18th century, between middle the 19th century, the very birth we are talking about, in response to the revolution, social situation, of course, industrial revolution, French revolution, and intellectual revolutions, very enlightenment period you call, various revolutions brought tremendous changes in the society. And social scientists of that particular time period started writing about society. That culminated in the very subject matter called sociology, well. But Karl Marx was considered, that economist. Why? The predominant role played by economic resources in life. He's the emphasis on that. Because of that, he's called as economist. But his contributions, that tremendous in enriching the subject matter called sociology. Ladies and gentlemen. He's also, that called historian, because the first contribution is otherwise called historical materialism. See, this contribution of Karl Marx, you try to see the world in terms of money, in terms of material resources, in terms of effective role played by the material resources. This is called materialism. This materialism, what Karl Marx said, is otherwise called historical materialism, because he took into account the whole society in terms of series of stages. Primitive society, ancient society, of course Asiatic society, the feudal society, then capitalistic society, then finally through revolution, establishment of classless communist society. That's what his evolutionary principle we call PAF model. You are going to see there. He studied the whole society That's what the history of hitherto all existing societies, full of struggle between haves and have-nots. Every stage you had the seed of the contradictions, the struggle, the antagonism between two different classes, the struggle because of exploitation. So every stage has got its own seed of destruction, giving way to another stage: primitive, ancient, Asiatic, feudal, capitalistic. Ladies and gentlemen, that's why he is also called historian, because he took into account the whole society in terms of series of stages. Not only that, his identity, Jewish community of Germany, you know that he's from there, you might be aware, the very briny people, they were thrown out of the country, you know, the West Asia peace process, and the Zionism movement ultimately, even the United States of America is under this particular pressure group, you know very well. That's why US always having close relationship with Israel, you know very well. It is that way, ladies and gentlemen, come back. And most of the scientists, you know, belong to this particular community, very intellectuals, a fine knowledge. Of course, the Nazism, you know, the Hitler, and became victim of this, you know, the community somewhat. Of course, he took revenge. That's history, you know very well, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, Karl Marx's contribution is otherwise called Marxism. He's also called great philosopher, like Messiah. He's also called political propagandist, because his contribution became, you know, the manifesto, you know, even the contribution, the communist manifesto, ideology of, you know, communist party. But he wasn't understood, you know, during his lifetime. Of course, he was running pillar to the post, you will come to know. But after his death, you know, that his contribution became the political ideology of, you know, the communist nations, you know very well. For all communist parties, you know that the founder of communism, you know very well, you know, you will see definitely this photo. If you happen to see nearby, you know, the Communist Party office, you will see this particular photo, ladies and gentlemen. Otherwise, you would have seen even the trade unions offices and all. Political propagandist we are talking about, because, you know, the establishment of classless communist society, the political ideology of the communist, you know, the party. Otherwise, social philosopher, prophet, a messiah. This is how the society is going to be. This is what the solution. This is what the problem. The problem between haves and have-nots, ownership over economic resources, the struggle, the antagonism, conflict leading to change from one stage to another. Finally, when the exploitation is sharp in the capitalistic society, there comes revolution. Through revolution, there comes, you know, that the classless communist society. That is the solution according to Karl Marx. He gave solution. He became part of the solution, identifying issues and providing solution, you know, seeing both side by side. That's why great philosopher, the messiah, talking about solution, being part of the solution. Prophet, you know, Prophet Muhammad, the same way a prophet we call. Of course, this is ideology. I'm not asking you to subscribe this ideology, like this ideology. That's not my duty, ladies and gentlemen. Don't get emotional, don't get prejudiced. This is, no, you have to know the two sides of a single coin. Karl Marx even today is relevant in spite of the criticisms, for your kind information, ladies and gentlemen, right? So this Marxism is called official ideology of the political system, the party system. And he was called more of social philosopher than sociology, because, you know, the duty of the sociologist is to study about society, to understand the society. Sociology is all about science of society, and to make generalizations, report. There are other people waiting there outside to make use of your report, because it is very integrated study, scientific study, systematic study you make. You are not sociologist, you are civil service aspirant. Your duty is not to become sociologist. I'm talking, you know, what is expected out of sociologist status, right? So as a sociologist, you should not prescribe what is good for the society. Even Emile Durkheim was criticized that way, because he spoke about the sociology of education. There should be a moral law. All those things, you know, he was criticized. That's unbecoming on the part of sociologist also. As a sociologist, you understand, you study and make generalizations over. But it is very precise, accurate. What you make is called, why? Because you apply the methods of natural sciences in understanding, in making study over society. That's why it's called science of society. You got the idea. But he is called social philosopher, it's because he understood the problem. He also talks about solution. It's a philosophy. You see two sides of a single coin. Right? Ladies and gentlemen, you know both. You philosophize things. You make philosophy out of it. Ladies and gentlemen, his contribution is otherwise called economic determinism. Yeah, money is the matrix. The emphasis on material resources. Those who have material resources, they will be respected. And they decide everything. In Tamil, there is a saying, Vallan Vaguttade Vaikal. Those who are all commanding ownership over economic resources, they will have access to rest of the institutions in the society. If you have money, you can influence politics. If you have money, you can influence rest of the institutions. If you have money, you can have access to abroad education. You know that maybe higher education, you speak that way. You are capable of influencing the rest of the, that institutions of society. That's why money, the material resources, is said to be foundation of a building. Rest of the institutions are, it is almost like, that's what we have got, separate unit we are going to talk about. So it is this way you ultimately build other entities. Like Pisa Tower I have built. You have different things. Got the idea now? So this is a foundation, ladies and gentlemen. Money is the foundation. The infrastructure shapes the material resources. That material resources shaping rest of the institutions in the society, they are called superstructure. This is what you are going to learn later. So this determinism, Karl Marx was very determined to see the world in terms of that material resource. Money is the matrix. That's why it is called. He's also called economic determinist. Money is the matrix. Let me repeat once again. It is economic infrastructure shaping superstructure. Economic infrastructure is almost like foundation of a building. The superstructure, rest of the institutions, you show your influence. Even today you speak, accuse, that the ruling dispensation or rest of the, whatever may be the party, the lobby in the US politics, even today in India we are talking about, the corporate driven politics, corporate funding, even the electoral bonds criticized because of the anonymity, very well. Who is sponsoring, you may not know. It is that way, ladies and gentlemen. Why? If you have money, you are capable of having your own say in politics also. You can influence the policy decision. You become, pressure group. It is that way. It is highly relevant today. But, don't get influenced. Just understand. So, infrastructure shaping superstructure. That's according to Karl Marx. Ladies and gentlemen. So, this, not only that, you got some more. All of his contributions you come to know. The manifesto of the Communist Party, where you come to know, because his own, wealthy friend those days, the Friedrich Engels, was responsible for releasing all of his contributions. People came to know. Good evening, sir. How are you? Good to see you. Mehak Sood, thank you. Welcome to Unacademy. Welcome, Mehak. Very good evening. Yes, I think, and yes, I'm very, that you can be, you can also watch parallelly rest of the videos once you finish, so to connect and to guess, to get more out of it. Right, I told you already, he was running pillar to the post because, that the poverty, the poor situation, the absence of resources, afraid of, meeting, that the lenders of money, hiding himself. That's why important role played by economic resources. He gone to that, idea. Yes, why he was running Germany to France and Belgium, France to Belgium, of course, then to France again, then to Germany, then finally in UK till his death, he stayed there. See. So because of his, the contribution, of course, speaking about economic, that goes against political establishment of the day, management of industries. Otherwise, people will get awareness about this, exploitation. So what will happen? The whole setup, the administration, whether it is political management, that will be against Karl Marx ultimately. So there will be cases, judiciary, and they will, they ultimately banish him. He has to go from that country, run away from one country to another, because he will give fantastic lectures, especially in the court proceedings. What will happen? Judge will, that stand out of his seat and saying that very enlightened lecture, sir, fantastic, but we feel very sorry to lose you because you have been already given a judgment that you have to go out of this nation, they will say. He was respected for his enlightenment lectures, a contribution, but his policy went against, that the incumbent, the rule there, political establishment there. That is the reason running pillar to, because he wasn't, that understood in his lifetime, but he was understood later. That's why he is relevant today. That happened in so much of, great men. Even Mahatma Gandhi, the sacrifice, but after his death, he lives today in every policy, every, the walks of the life. Even Subhash Chandra Bose, Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, our leaders, we are talking about their sacrifice. Ladies and gentlemen, it is that way. So it is that way. So you have to, if you want to understand the ideas, you have to know one concept. Ideas must be traced to the life conditions of the historical situations of those who uphold them. Even Lewis Coser, that spoke this way. The justifying Karl Marx. Why this Karl Marx keep on talking about money? Overemphasis on money. No, no, no. If you want to understand the very situation, you have to understand the context. In what context, in what situation, what social situation, what contemporary, what time period he spoke about it, and what are all the challenges he faced to come to that particular conclusion, then only you will appreciate the idea. So ideas must be traced to the life conditions of the historical situations. Otherwise, you won't appreciate. It may become, sometimes irrelevant also. So that's why we say context is very important. So you can't see in absolute sense, ladies and gentlemen. There comes relativism, cultural relativism, especially you will come to know. Then only it is called objectivity. Then only it is called objectivity. Ladies and gentlemen, it is that way. So the writings or speeches of Karl Marx directed against, that those European administrations that time, that covering Germany and rest of the portions called Prussia. That, of course, that it's not, you don't get confused with today's Russia, ladies and gentlemen. It is belonging to the European region I am talking about, covering West Germany, all those portions, So all of his writings and speeches directed against those days, that against that particular administration, that ultimately turned the very Karl Marx the greatest hero of the modern times. So the idea lives forever. Your enlightened ideas. It is not reactionary, it's a response, let me say. He understood thoroughly. That's why the idea living for a long time, ladies and gentlemen. It has become part and parcel of your syllabus. One of the founding fathers of, that sociology. Ladies and gentlemen, very important. Whatever may be, the very C. Wright Mills, the sociology of knowledge especially, it is he who popularized the very Marxism in the Western world. Got the idea, the communist ideology, even today, you talk about, of course, Cuba, and that here you talk about the communist nations, of course, the very China, Russia, they are brothers, they are comrades, very well. Right, ladies and gentlemen, but Western world running after the notion called democracy, the individual rights, freedom, that all those things, but that they were not accepting this ideology, but of course they are practicing, they are practicing the materialism, important role played by materialism in the Western society, very well. Of course, the very Karl Marx, the Marxism got introduced in the Western world by none other than C. Wright Mills, especially the United States of America. Ladies and gentlemen, I think it is right. And beyond that, I think it is right time, something more about it, that even lot of his contributions, not only the Communist Manifesto through which you come to know, especially the Karl Marx and his, that Friedrich Engels, his own friend responsible for all of his contributions, that what are all other contributions, if you ask me, these are all the things: economic and philosophical manuscript, German ideology, poverty of philosophy, because, there was a Proudhon, another social scientist, wrote about poverty, especially he said, philosophy of poverty, that was the title. See, this is in retaliation to that particular article title, poverty of philosophy. See, this, even in the parliament when we spoke during coalition era, common minimum program, people criticize minimum common program, they will say. You understand? When you say common minimum program, they will just replace the words minimum common program. That happened. That coalition politics era, I think, let me recall those National Front, all those coalition politics we witnessed. Yes, and beyond that, of course, this is the main contribution, Communist Manifesto, and even the political ideology of Communist Party tracing here. Another article, of course, titled, the contribution, Holy Family, Class Struggle in France, Edith Brumaire of Louis Bonaparte, Contributions to Critique of Political Economy. These are all the titles under which he spread, contributed, reinforced his ideologies. That's why it became perspective. One of the major perspectives in sociology called conflict school of thought. Ladies and gentlemen, Das Kapital 1, 2, 3, and Grundrisse, that. So, the Jewish, he belongs to Jewish community, especially Germany. Of course, you see the impact of German, that language everywhere in his contributions. Yes, I think it is right time. Let's move to first of his contributions. Ladies and gentlemen, please, few seconds, please. I'm sorry. Yes, the first contribution. What is that? Historical materialism. The title is self-explanatory. The effective role played by material resources. He understood the whole society in terms of the money is the matrix, the important role played by material resources in influencing decisions rather. So this materialism centered around possession of material, he also qualified with adjective called historical materialism. I told you already, he took into account whole society in terms of series of stages. That's why it's called historical materialism. Yes. You have to understand who is this Karl Marx, otherwise who inspired this Karl Marx that you talk about Karl Marx today. Who inspired Karl Marx? Yes, none other than Hegel. The Hegel spoke about idealism, ideas responsible for change in the world. An idea can change the world, even in advertisement slogan. An idea can change the world. But there are people also lamenting, yeah, we got a lot of ideas, sir. Give me money, then only we can implement. Oh, there comes Karl Marx. When you say, if you have idea, the creativity, the innovation, idea with which you can move to the next level, you can take next avatar. Fantastic, sir. Even to get the ideas out of your R&D, you need infrastructure. There comes Karl Marx to counter. Whatever may be, this Hegel, he said idealism. What is that? Ideas responsible, no doubt at all. Very green revolution, the very idea. The idea of Norman Borlaug, the Rockefeller Foundation, the Norman Borlaug scientist who gave the hybrid seed varieties, that ultimately became green revolution in India, especially the world. That India attained self-sufficiency because of this particular idea. Even new economic policy, globalization, liberalization, privatization ideas. Even the technology is driven by ideas. No doubt, Hegel was right. But that ideas, that's why he said, ideas responsible for the change in the world. Even, the democracy is idea. And out of R&D, people are appreciated by, Nobel prizes, very well. Even whatever may be the field of, achievement, advancement we are talking about. So ideas playing, crucial role even today. That's why you got, every organization will have that, R&D. So they should be very strong. Then only the idea getting translated into all of our consumer durables, automobiles, products, designs, even in defense, the space science, whatever may be, even the agriculture field, whatever may be, genetic engineering we are talking about, whether it is science or social science, ideas, they're ultimately driving the world. No doubt we accept that. So that's what, Hegel and Immanuel Kant and so many people you will come to know. Let me stop with this Hegel. But this idealism, according to Hegel, was called dialectic in nature. That's what I used to emphasize this in all classes. For every thesis, you got antithesis. Then later it becomes synthesis, ladies and gentlemen. For every idea, there will be opposing idea, because when we had monarchy, there came ultimately, democracy. But today we are specializing in democracy, letter and spirit. But what we are talking about, we don't want, that indirect form of democracy. We want direct form of democracy, plebiscite, referendum, recall. Because we are tired of this, the delegated legislation. To be letter and spirit, the democracy to be successful, people should be literate enough. The education with value system, it's not mere a title or ABCD after your names. So the people should have direct say in all, the policies, programs, but it is not possible in India like country, because given the size, of course, the Mark Zuckerberg, of course, saying that why can't we, that vote online to practice letter and, that spirit of democracy, given the fact even, that the uneducated people cutting across class, cutting across, that the sections of population, you got the internet penetration, the mobile technology, the revolution in communication, whatever may be, ideas responsible for changing the world. But at ideas, one point of time, of course, we said in the beginning, geocentric theory, then heliocentric theory. And today, that you talk about solar system, part of the galaxy, Milky Way galaxy, and you got, millions and millions of galaxy. You don't know where you are. Once you understand, you will be humble, ladies and gentlemen. It's in the part of universe, we are nowhere. And expansion, contraction, Big Bang theory, black hole theory. Ladies and gentlemen, what is that? You feel humble. You know nothing. That develops ultimately, whatever may be in spite of that. But at a particular time, a particular ideology will rule the world. You will say for every idea's later point of time, there will be criticism. There will be, that for every thesis, there will be antithesis, then synthesis. It's good to have antithesis, nothing wrong. Criticism is part of the democracy, but it should be constructive in character, ladies and gentlemen. Otherwise, it will have different, that course of direction, very well. It is that way. So Hegel said it is dialectic idealism. What is that? Dialectic means it is study of contradictions, one opposing another, ladies and gentlemen. So that is what it is said. For every idea, every thesis, antithesis, then synthesis. It is that way. So what Hegel said, idealism, but that was replaced by, the very Karl Marx, by materialism. But he took this concept called dialectic trend, the study of contradiction, one opposing another. For every class, there is an equal opposing class. For haves, there will be have not. In every society he spoke. Owner, worker, capitalist, proletariats, landlord, serf. It is that way. Master, slave. In every society you talk about two classes. That's why he gone to the extent of saying, Karl Marx, history of hitherto all existing societies full of struggle. The struggle between haves and have-nots, the antagonism, one opposing another, the contradiction, the simmering discontent because of the exploitation, one class opposing another class. Except primitive communism, in all stages, the Karl Marx recognizing this particular class conflict, that one opposing another, the contradiction, that is otherwise called dialectism. So what Hegel said, dialectic idealism, ideas responsible for change in the world, one idea opposing another. But Karl Marx said materialism, that too dialectic materialism, that too historical materialism, one class opposing another class. Do you understand? So it is Hegel who inspired, the very Karl. As a young Hegelian, he understood. Later he replaced ideas by material resources. He said material resources responsible for the change, not the ideas. That's what Karl Marx. Very well. It is that way. It is very natural. Ladies and gentlemen, it is that way. Then materialism, where he got inspired, the very materialism, if you ask me, of course, the Feuerbach, Proudhon, French thinker, Saint Simon, you will come to know. You please go through, the very IGNO materials. You will come to know in what way. Ladies and gentlemen, that it's Marx, that preface, that the introduction to a contribution to the critique of political economy, you come to know about this contribution, historical materialism. His way of understanding society. This is how society, because all social scientists started writing about society, that culminated in the subject matter called sociology. It is Karl Marx's version of understanding society. Society in terms of struggle, in terms of class conflict. The struggle has got its root in exploitation. The exploitation between haves and have-nots. Why the exploitation? Haves trying to control over economic resources by exploiting the have-nots. Rich people trying to exploit the poor people. This is what the thing you have to understand simply, ladies and gentlemen. That's happening even today. Corporate-driven politics we are talking about. Even the globalization through which developed countries trying to take inroads into the developing, underdeveloped world and affecting domestic economy. They come with technology, take away all our resources and go back with money and leaving us to mere consumers and making our nation as, the dumping yards, dustbins. That's why government is very conscious in allowing all foreign MNCs. Otherwise, we take care of domestic interests. We fight in the World Trade Organization. Ladies and gentlemen, this is happening even today. That's why Karl Marx is highly relevant even today. Yes, so the contribution what we are talking, Marx's general ideas about society. That's what you call historical materialism or even dialectic materialism. Ladies and gentlemen, he also spoke, that the whole society in terms of series of stages I told you, as evolutionary way, primitive, ancient, Asiatic, feudal, capitalist. You are going to see diagram also. How in terms of ownership over material resources or economic basis, in that pursuit of ownership, there came antagonism, there came struggle. The inherent, the seed in every stage that resulted in the destruction of the stage, leading to another stage, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, it's right time. The external realities, you see, that all our, Burj, that the building, that you got Middle East everywhere, and even Eiffel Tower, you call, that the California, that every, that even, the marble, the architecture we have, that all external realities, what we talk about, everything what you have built, that we wonder rather, appreciate rather, all these things ultimately mere reflection of something within the human mind. That's what Hegel said. Ideas, all these products, Do you know very well all these products are outcome of the ideas? Do you know? Outcome of ideas. That's what Hegel said. All external realities, what we are talking about, mere reflection of something within human mind. That's what Hegel, belonging to idealism. But he said that idealism dialectical in nature, one opposing another. Yes, not only that, he said ideas were result of objective reality, that is matter. This is Karl Marx countering his statement. You just see here itself, idealism is practiced. For every idea of Hegel, you got opposing idea from Karl Marx. Dialectism works here itself. He opposed his own, that role model. As a young Hegelian, he subscribed views of Hegel. Later, he replaced, the idealism by materialism. See, when you say all these realities, what you see, the wonder, outcome of ideas, the ideas were result of objective reality. Of course, you could implement those ideas by how? Without material resources, can you implement? To buy, to purchase, to make it, pragmatic, realistic, you need definitely economic resources, ladies and gentlemen. There comes Karl Marx right in his, perspective. Ideas needed. To implement the ideas, you need material resources also. That's why both has got its own merit. Ladies and gentlemen, whatever may be, of course, it is not vice versa. So that's what Karl Marx argument. That's why Marxism. So Hegel, idealism, Karl Marx, Marxism. Ladies and gentlemen, right. So the material conditions or economic factors affect the structure and development of the society. What do you mean by structure? Interrelationship existing among the institutions. Can you recall your basic concepts now? In the micro level, you can say social structure when you say interrelationship between social status and role. You say family is structure. How? Kurvi kutta kalaikade. What is this? Family, our elders used to say in the rural area. There are people trying to disturb your family in the rural area. Thinna talks. The witty officers, the guys without employment will spoil other families. That's happening even today in the rural areas. Even the urban areas in the next level. The gated communities too. So this is happening, very well. Ladies and gentlemen, we are talking about, yes. Yeah, that's fantastic. So they spoil the structure, whatever may be the organization. Even the family has got structure in terms of various statuses. When each and everyone from the respective statuses discharging the duties, it becomes role. The status plus role. You see a structure in the family, structure in its functioning. If that a system is born, then family is said to be systematic in nature. Any organization is called systematic in nature. It's because of the presence of structure and its functioning. What happens? The material conditions or economic factors. If you have, you can form structure. If you don't have, it will affect the structure. Even our institutions in Indian society, you feel some sort of lacuna in terms of lack of access, or they're running short of infrastructure facilities in education or health. A government is working very hard to address, and they are mobilizing resources through various policies, and that in the budget, resource allocation. Even by availing loan from international institutions like Asia Infrastructure Investment Bank. Recently, twice we availed loan, more than 9,000 crores, ladies and gentlemen. Why? To address this, the gap, the infrastructural needs. So once again, even the FDI, you invite FDI, even Prime Minister Modi visiting foreign countries, the diaspora diplomacy, economic diplomacy you speak. Why? To bring back the money you needed, to augment the foreign exchange reserves, so that all our infrastructural bottlenecks from which you come out, so that strong manufacturing sector can be established. Yes, the material conditions, the economic factors affect the structure and also the development of the society. You understand? So here comes Karl Marx. Of course, we may be democratic nation. See the ideology of Karl Marx relevant. That is why philosopher, messiah, prophet, they live even after the death. They are even today relevant. Like Gandhi's, ahimsa, even today they are relevant. Ladies and gentlemen, it is that way. I think that. Let's move to. So not only that, the series of stages of society, and each and every society has got its own contradictions. The conflict between the two. So that's what that each and every stage in terms of its own mode of production. The mode of production is otherwise called economic organization. In primitive society, ancient society, Asian primitive society, what is the mode of production? The nomad people, tribal people, first people, Adivasi people, what's their mode of production? hunting and food gathering. That is the mode of production. Whereas, that there comes, that next society, then after that agrarian, settled agriculture you are talking about. Then agriculture is the predominant mode of production. Then with that surplus, you started establishing, factories, factory-based mode of production. There comes industrial society with associated scientific, discoveries and inventions. Then when there became, that excessive surplus, even we are going to justify in terms of, the surplus value theory, that, that industrial society indulged in, that economic exploitation and widening gap between rich and poor. That's why revolution. That's why, the class struggle. There, the Karl Marx coming there talking about solution to that particular conflict through classless communist society. Right? It is that way. Whatever may be, every society, each and every type of, because he took into account whole society. In its, that analysis, that Karl Marx says every society has got its own a type of production, mode of production. It's otherwise called economic organization with its own seed of destruction. Why? Every stage except primitive communist society, which is classless communist society. In primitive communist society, tribal society, everything is for everyone. You go to forests and they don't have, private property consciousness. They won't say it's my tree, it's my fruit, my vegetable, my animal. No, they will collectively fight and will share the resources. That pure communism that you can witness in tribal society, that's what primitive communism. After that, the day when came the very concept called it's mine, the selfish motive, the ownership over economic resources, the private property consciousness, there came the very birth of, that struggle. It's mine, it's yours. There came fight, there came conflict, there came exploitation. So the primitive communist society, a pure communist society, the absence of class conflict, except that society, every society with full of struggle leading to, that ultimately revolution. There comes the solution, the establishment of classless society. That's what the political goal of Marxism. That's what the ideology of Communist Party also, very well, whatever may be. So the mode of production we are talking about, it is otherwise called economic organization in every stage with contradictions, simmering discontent that led to change from one stage to another. So this MOP can also be called the combination of both forces of production and relations of production. My dad used to say, when he used to scold my brother, that not having enough responsibility, and when he scolds, my elder brother, I watched in my younger age, that you go to the street, earn 1 rupee, you will understand how the world is. The day when you earn 1 rupee from someone, the day when you get 1 rupee from someone after your work or whatever may be your contribution, a guy who gives you money, 1 rupee is called owner. Since you get the money from someone, you are the getter, you are worker. There comes a relationship. When the moment you enter into the production sphere, there arises a relationship. Owner, worker, giver, getter. The owner need not be, that good person. Sometimes he may exploit you also. But when you enter into the production sphere, you will come to know there are a lot of forces. The machine, the technology we are talking about, ladies and gentlemen. So it is that way. So when you enter into the production sphere, of course, he says you will come to know the first historical act according to, Karl Marx. When you enter into that production sphere, there arises a relationship we are talking about, ladies and gentlemen. So this is the production sphere, this is, that owner. And here what you are talking about, workers. In the industrial society, I'll be explaining about this also. Workers happen to be majority, owners happen to be, minority, very well. Few people controlling the production sphere. This is production sphere, ladies and gentlemen. It is this way you talk. This production sphere will be controlled by this, the owners, of course, workers from here. See the distance. They happen to be majority, minority owners. So the relation owner or, as worker, the relations of production and also the forces, the machine, the technology, the human resources put together called forces. The relations of production and forces of production put together called mode of production. This is what we are going to elaborate also. Ladies and gentlemen, it is that way. But this relations of production reflects the nature of forces of production. That's what I say in the agricultural, that society, how the relations will be: landlord, serfdom, owners of the soil, tillers of the soil, or agricultural, landlord, and that agricultural laborers. That's what the nature of the society. So the forces, that it is land-based economic organization responsible for deciding the nature of the relationship. Whereas in industrial society, you call owners workers, capitalists, that otherwise bourgeois, capitalists, that proletariats you are talking about. Ladies and gentlemen, it is that way. Yes. So, but these forces of production conflicting the relations of production. So the very production sphere for which you are responsible, of course, workers working hard and making that production sphere, but over the days what will happen? And that you will be asked to go. That's why I think you have to recall the Dr. Kalam's statement: love your job, don't love your company, because you don't know when the company is going to stop loving you. Have passion in what you do. Forget about that entity. You can change entity. You got multiple employers in the world. You don't need single employer support because you got technology. You can sell anywhere. So love your job. Have passion in what you do. That will take you to the greater heights. The moment you think, you become owner because you're owner of your technology, owner of your passion. So it is that way. So what happens, right? All workers responsible for producing this production, that establishing this production environment, but they are not owners of that production environment. Rather, what happened, right? They are mere getting a part of that the contribution, otherwise as wages, as salary. It is to some extent exploitation. Otherwise, they can't go against the production sphere. Otherwise, sometimes production through its management specialization may throw out you because of automation, or replacing that with young generation, the old people will be thrown. Otherwise, you got your own natural retirement, ladies and gentlemen. So the forces of production is always entering into conflict with the relations of production. Ladies and gentlemen, do you get my point of view? In that node, yes, we come to know mode of production, which is equal to relations of production and forces of production, both put together. Ladies and gentlemen, not only that, economic, social, political views, what we are talking about, is unified body of the doctrine capable of application to every aspect of the social institution. So when you talk about society, this is how you develop the concept called society. Society has got multiple aspects, one depending on another, very well. That's why the interrelationship existing among all social institutions you call structure. That structure where this Karl Marx making difference, right? All are interrelated. Economic, social, of course, when you say social, that itself broad term encompassing all: marital, familial, educational, political, religious, everything. So he considers that way. So economic, social, political views, unified body of doctrine capable of application to every aspect of the social situation. You can never talk about society. When you talk about one institution, naturally you take into account the support of other institutions. But Karl Marx says, without the support of economic institution, you can never speak, because that happened to be the foundation of the society, foundation of the building, and above which you build your superstructure called rest of the institutions called non-economic institutions. Ladies and gentlemen, it is that way we are talking about. Yes, what is this? Otherwise, that according to Hegel, I'm parallelly discussing Hegel and Karl Marx so that you understand. Hegel, idealism; Karl Marx, materialism, but both sharing the common ground called dialectism, the study of contradictions, one opposing another. But Hegel defined in terms of ideas, but whereas Marx defined in terms of the ownership over material resources as conflicts or contradiction. Yes. So according to Hegel, reason is the essence of reality. In pragmatic sense, you understand everything because of the cause and effect, the logical connectivity or reasons. So that you will never understand the reality otherwise without the support of cause and effect or causes, reason. But according to him, not only that, we are talking about the history is growth of reason to awareness of itself. From mere that justification, you start that becoming aware of the very reason. That is what history you talk about. You move from reason to awareness. Okay, so what can be done? What should I do? Okay, everything okay, fantastic, knowledge is okay here. The history is all about progress from mere that reasoning to awareness of itself. This is what history. Ladies and gentlemen, it is that way we are talking about. Not only that, a progress in the consciousness of freedom, the consciousness, ideas of freedom, the consciousness, the mind, outcome of the mind, consciousness, ideas, the progress in the ideas of freedom. You move from reason to awareness. This is what Hegel version, ladies and gentlemen. Whatever may be, the idealism according to Hegel, ultimate reality lies in transcending phenomena that go beyond. That's beyond human potential also. That even you call transcendental meditation. Go beyond. Go beyond the mind. There is life beyond the mind. There is life because this, the body dies, soul leaves, spiritual world, you are talking same way. So this idealism, ultimate reality lies in transcending phenomena, go beyond. This idea, that's why I think you would have watched a movie called Lucy. That when the lady, that will be intaking, that chemicals, the power increases, the knowledge increases, she starts understanding everything, connecting, ultimately when it reaches, she is nowhere. But there will be message in everybody's mobile, I am everywhere. The enlightenment, there will be bright light. That's what called, the knowledge, ultimate knowledge, the ultimate enlightenment. That's called God. I am omnipresent, omnipotent. What you call, that God, what you call knowledge as God, here ultimately the same thing, ideas, enlightenment. So idealism, the ultimate reality lies in transcending phenomena. That's Hegelism. But whereas Karl Marx said materialism, yes. So the dialectic, what is that dialectism? It is study of contradiction and sociological theory of human progress, So both Karl Marx and Hegel talking about human progress, but Hegel traveled in idealism path, Karl Marx traveled in materialism path. Ladies and gentlemen, both shared the common, the ground called study of contradiction, one opposing another. One class opposing another, there for every thesis, antithesis. That's Hegel's version. Ladies and gentlemen, whatever may be, so this Karl Marx talks about materialistic interpretation of social, cultural and political phenomena, but not in absolute sense. Not in absolute sense. That if you don't have money, you don't have life. It's not like that. So it will be nice if you have money. That is what the stand. But it's unfortunate later writings, people started exaggerating. But what Karl Marx gave was called emphasis, not exaggeration. But people gone to the level of exaggeration, very well. The opinion differs. Ladies and gentlemen, it is not in absolute sense, but in relative sense, it will be appropriate. Otherwise, effective role played by material resources in influencing socio-cultural and political phenomena. You take into account that way. Right, it is that way. Ladies and gentlemen, I think it is right time, that come on, let's add some more points beyond this. Yes, that's what Karl Marx said. The part of, conflict school of thought, change is the notion. Maradadu matram ondrudan in Tamil. Change is permanent. This is sociology optional. I think, that Haridas, and I think you can also watch, that lot of videos already available. And we are introducing thinker today, Karl Marx, very, very important thinker, part of sociology, paper 1 syllabus. Right. Yes, it is that way. Ladies and gentlemen, yes, what is this? So the change, all objects are subject to continuous change. In Tamil, that Maradadu matram ondrudan. Change is permanent. Iduvum kadandu pogum. You talk that way. That. So, that nothing is permanent. This too shall pass. This is the meaning we are talking about. The rate of change is decided, but the change, the rate of the speed with which that it changes, the pace, it is decided by law of dialectics, the study of contradiction, the extent to which it's the conflict, the extent to which the contradiction, the extent to which the exploitation, the extent to which the antagonism in every stage responsible for the change. Accordingly, the changes will be. Got the idea, ladies and gentlemen? Because in capitalistic society, heavy exploitation, inhuman working conditions, that's why alienation. Sharp exploitation. That is why, that the situation demands radical change, that's what Karl Marx says. Through revolution, you establish classless communist society that involves violence also. The violence is the midwife, according to, Karl Marx. The violence is the midwife of, that revolution. Even Mao Zedong, the change by the gun, it is that way. So violence is not ruled out there. Of course, that you can say both Karl Marx and that Mahatma Gandhi were interested, dreamt of egalitarian society. Mahatma Gandhi took ahimsa, non-violent path. But Karl Marx talking about radical change, that too revolution, where violence is not ruled out. And given the exploitation, they don't know how people will react or respond. That varies from that nature of society, from one society to another. It's all totally depending on the simmering discontent, contradiction, the people's retaliation. Even, that in Tamil Nadu government also you would have witnessed, that the Tuticorin, the protest ultimately. You're talking about how people react, respond, protest. The movements we are talking about, even Indian independence movement against British exploitation. History will speak, that variety of, revolutions like that. It is that way, ladies and gentlemen. So society is interrelated whole. So it has got its own connectivity, but it is not permanent. It is changeable. The extent to which it changes depending on the nature of dialectics, nature of contradictions in that society, nature of, that exploitation, nature of antagonism, otherwise nature of absence of peace or stability we are talking about. Ladies and gentlemen, this that session is going to be that around more than 2 hours also, because very important thing here, that ladies and gentlemen, you can watch that demands your passion so that you understand better. It is foundation said to be that one of the perspectives, conflict school of thought. Without the support of Karl Marx, we can never understand that particular perspective. That's why we are spending much time. We are emphasizing, ladies and gentlemen, it is that way. So society is interrelated world, changeable, and is changeable. The human history is potentially revolutionary by nature. The human nature, not history. The very nature, you are revolutionary. You don't tolerate. That you are always rebellious. You are always under unrest mode. The tendency to oppose everything. The attitude in you. You are not submissive. You always love change. Otherwise, you don't want to be stereotyped. Otherwise, whatever may be, the human nature is potentially revolutionary. So that's according to Karl Marx. Not only that, social relations are over and above individuals. Here I see the the definition. What is that? Society is more than individual. That is the meaning. The very social relations, the system or network of society, system or network of relationships, ultimately responsible for the formation of society. Karl Marx says social formation or social relations, that's more than individuals. But Max Weber will be speaking other way around. Individuals are more than society. Even symbolic interactionism, the perspective will say individuals are more than society. That's looking other way around. Even psychology says individual is more than individual mind. The individual is the basic unit in psychology, But whereas in sociology, society is the basic, the society is the matrix. Otherwise, the family is the basic unit of society. The collectivity, the social groups, social institutions. You understand the emphasis, the difference? It is that way. So social relations, that define in terms of material resources called infrastructure, we spoke already, but that infrastructure, mode of production, economic, that organization. So this particular foundation of a building, deciding superstructure, rest of the institutions. We spoke already, this infrastructure, this, that economic infrastructure, this, that mode of production, otherwise called, that combination of both forces of production and relations of production. You understand? In all points, it will be, getting manifested. So the superstructure, and beyond, as I told you already, right, that above that you build, that the superstructure, but this is the foundation, the infrastructure, this is superstructure, ladies and gentlemen. So superstructure is rest above. Come back. So forces of production, if you want, that elaboration little bit, it is a capacity to produce, capacity of the society to produce. It could be technical knowledge or technical equipments. It could be organization of the labor force. Ladies and gentlemen, it is that way. So the forces of production, that is what. But the relations, I told you, right, what kind of relationship? Haves, have not. The relationship arising out of the production sphere. It arising out of the forces of production. But the nature of relationship between forces of production and relations of production is not cooperative, conflicting rather. We have already seen that. So, but social change is the very result of the struggle happening in every society. The class struggle, class antagonism. So this is, that the Karl Marx opinion, ladies and gentlemen, and some more. After that, we will move to the next concept. It will be getting repeated so that, you get enforced. I want, that condition you to the Karl Marx, opinion, the perspective. After that, I will condition you culturally, that sociologically with another perspective called, structural functionalism. Then we will move to symbolic interactionism in the future sessions I'm talking about. Our emphasis today, it's about Marxism, Karl Marx, conflict school of thought especially. The founder of conflict tradition, one of the major perspectives in sociology. Gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, it is that way. So this historical materialism we are talking now, part of Karl Marx's first contribution, the revolutions are not just political accidents. It is that year-long suppressed, oppressed, that discontent on the part of the people. That's getting manifested as happened in India's independence struggle. Even V.D. Savarkar said, the first war of Indian independence in the 1857. You call Sipai mutiny, na? Even before that, you had, Vellore mutiny. That's totally different. Tamil Nadu's role. It is that way. And the rest of the India also acknowledging that. So it is not mutiny to outrightly malign the first war of Indian independence, our leaders said. Why? The revolutions are not just happening like, some outburst. No, no. Of course, there may be some safety valve theory, but it is not accident. You can't call it as accident. Got the point? So it is not political accidents. They are social expressions of historical movement and necessary manifestations of historical progress of societies. It is by, you need that revolution, then only you can move to the next level. You need that radical change, the radical shift by that, collective movement, of course, with leader, with ideology, with purpose. So the revolutions are, not just accident, they are social expressions of historical movements and necessary manifestations of historical progress in the societies, ladies and gentlemen. So of course, as I told you many times, right? So Karl Marx took the whole society in terms of series of stages. In the beginning, primitive communism, then Asiatic society, then ancient society, then feudal society, then capitalist mode of production where exploitation is sharper. That is why you work towards, what is that? The solution. What is that solution? The classless communist society. The establishment of classless communist society by revolution. But whereas, that the Asia, especially Asiatic mode of production is totally different. And referring, that India, Pakistan like countries, of course, Pakistan later version, later creation, the whole Indian subcontinent, where it's totally different. It is, that it's complete subordination to the state bureaucracy. That is what Asiatic mode of production. So the complete manipulation by, even Max Weber will be reinforcing. They are called irrigated, not irritated, irrigated civilizations. You will come to know in T.B. Baltimore books, all this information is available. The Asiatic society, you got, that Asiatic mode of production, a special kind of product. Even today, you got water-related disputes. And between nations, the Teesta River Indus Water Treaty, ladies and gentlemen, we are talking about, and within nation, between the states, Almaty Dam, Vansadhara, here you talk about Kaveri River water disputes, Mulla Periyar Dam here. Ladies and gentlemen, it is that way. So Asiatic society, irrigated civilization. What is that? Not irritated, irrigated civilization. The role of bureaucracy to manage the water bodies. What happened? All revenue officials will be having, that a program called Jamabandi, the revenue collection. So the collector role, revenue collector, district collector, collector of revenue. Today, the role of collector is totally different. We spoke already, that to make the district self-sustainable. We spoke already. The paradigm shift we are talking about. So the change is permanent. Of course, let's come back here. So the Asiatic mode of production, it is, the complete subordination to the state bureaucracy. Even that's happening today. Even the India, after independence, the first part, 4.5 decades, that we lost the momentum because of inaction on the part of bureaucracy, red tapeism, procedural delay, that a lot of leaders are accusing. Of course, we started correcting. Even, that Prime Minister Modi's, lateral entry program. So the jumbo bureaucracy should not stop the process, rather to facilitate the process. And of course, it's not free from criticism. That's totally different scenario. Ladies and gentlemen, it is that way. I think it is time, that we move to the criticism. We are going to criticize Karl Marx on what? On these grounds. The very historical materialism. So people say underestimation of the role of non-economic factors in social life. Especially Max Weber. He also belongs to conflict tradition, but he has got his own difference with Karl Marx. Within the school. Within the school, you got differences. See, do you think, that A.R. Rahman has become, that reached this level, of course, popularity because of money? Do you think Dr. Kalam reached that level because of money? whatever may be, our leaders, even the Prime Minister Modiji reached that level because of organizational skill, the administrative efficiency. Of course, nobody is free from criticism. Forget about that. And so many leaders, whether you talk, that in the South also, that whether it is the Kalaignar Karunanidhi or, that Dr. Jayalalitha, whoever may be, the other abilities, it's not based on money. Even the very charismatism on the part of, that MGR and NTR. There are so many factors into play. If you want to reach top position in life, that's not mere money. There are so many things you can't buy with just money. What about your passion? What about your, the so-called otherwise, that other factors, non-economic factors, your oratorial skill, your command over language, your organizational ability. Ladies and gentlemen, it is outrightly rejecting rest of the factors, that. So that's why Karl Marx is criticized. It is underestimation of, that non-economic factors in social life. That of course, to live you need money. Yeah, of course, that there are so many things, that more than money to make your life better for your life, that kind information. Ladies and gentlemen, of course, the criticism from none other than, because he says effective role played by, according to Max Weber, especially in his contribution, Protestant ethic and spirit of capitalism. India and China like countries could not see economic development. Why? It's because of the religious spirit. They could not see, that economic development because of, that the karma, dharma, the transmigration of soul. Otherwise, there is always life after death. That rationalize all of their actions. If you earn money, that by exploiting others, probably you may be punished after your death. You can't escape from the karma. If you commit sin, rebirth is, that ensured. It is that notion stopped people. But don't misunderstand this. Nothing wrong in earning money, but that money should not be at the cost of somebody. You can earn money by your hard work, by your, that ability, nothing wrong. But that should not be at the cost of somebody else. You be very clear about it. Earning money is nothing wrong. But of course, later interpretation. But Max Weber's opinion was that way. India and China like countries, could not see economic development because of the religious spirit. But whereas the very Christianity, especially in that, we will also elaborate more in Max Weber's the contribution we are talking about. In Christianity, especially Protestantism, the Calvinism, Methodism, Baptism, Pietism, the Calvinism principle talking about that work is worship. In Tamil, people say, Seyyum Tozhile Deivam. You work hard, earn money, don't spend, be simple, be austere. What will happen? The money will get accumulated. This is how the Western countries, especially, that they could see economic development because of the support came from religion. But that spirit not available in that Eastern Oriental countries, especially India and China like countries, because these religions were completely occupied with the notion called karma, dharma, pava, punya, transmigration of soul. It is that way, that economic development. That's why all these countries underdeveloped. His opinion. Max Weber's, that at the contribution, especially under Protestant ethics and spirit of capitalism, linking the economic development with religion. So it is not saying mere, that money is responsible for economic development. Material resources results in development. Sometimes even the role of religion. You come to know the counter from Max Weber of same school of thought, conflict school of thought, ladies and gentlemen. Not only that, so this socialism, that you talk about triumphed in peasant society also. Example, that the China, that Russia we are talking about. See, Karl Marx, you said primitive, ancient, Asiatic, feudal, capitalistic, then classless communist society. But Russia and China, they did not go for industrialization. Prior to that, they embraced, socialistic pattern. So this socialism triumphed not in industrial society, when they were in peasant stage, for your kind information. The developing country status, that time itself, the communist ideology. They did not wait for industrialization, after that exploitation, after that classless communist society. But your model, your evolutionary stage, the path model is failing in these societies. That is the criticism against the very Karl Marx. Not only that, so in capitalism, forget about that. So the so-called industrial, the capitalist society or rich nations, we don't find the class struggle. People are happy. What that if they are not, if they feel they are not properly compensated by the organization, they will change the company, they will change the employer. That's very simple. Because you got opportunities everywhere. As long as you have passion, you got skill, talent, you can command your resources anywhere. But what is the, that of course there are conflicts between, that management and trade unions or the workers, but they've got mechanism to resolve. Even in the Japanese management, if, the workers unhappy with the management, they will fix one doll in front of the company, and, the workers will cut that, part of the doll. Management will understand there is a problem. They will immediately organize meeting. They will resolve the dispute. And even the very nations we are talking about, welfare nation notion, paternalistic nation, the country will take care of you like a father. When that is a scenario, where is the question of struggle? You got labor ministry, labor department ready to undergo, otherwise subscribe international labor organization standards. Even very recently, the government of India, they've gone for labor reforms, especially, that each and every state can fix, minimum wage according to the inflation, the price mechanisms. And not only that, labor reforms also talking about the dispute between, that even Factories and Officials Act got, that amended. We are talking about, apart from Whitley's commission. So workers may be allowed to participate in the management. And beyond that, of course, that the trade, that the very dispute between management and laborers may be set right by going for, that the fast track courts, tribunals. And minimum work, that you should not cross, that 40 hours, per week, like that. All those, of course, there are violations, but you cannot implement in private institutions. That's totally different scenario. There may be Karl Marx relevant, the private, that the corporate companies exploitation, whatever may be, but not in public sector. They have to strictly abide by rules and regulations. It is that way. So the so-called capitalist society, you have no signs of, class struggle. It's going on. Ladies and gentlemen, it is that way. So he is criticized, but it's not, sir, if you say Marxism, what about the Marxism practice in China? You got classes. In Russia, the communist country, Cuba, communist country. What is this? You got many versions of Marxism. You don't have pure, the tampered version we are talking about. It's quite confusing. That is what, according to Raymond Aron, ladies and gentlemen, that main currents in sociological thoughts book written by Raymond Aron, you also witness there. And not only that, it's limited to 19th century capitalist society. Ladies and gentlemen, idea evolved in one particular period of time may be relevant to that particular, that society. May not be, that applicable. That's why you should not understand in absolute sense. Cannot be applied everywhere, anytime. There is no concept like that. One shoe cannot fit everyone. Fit for all approach will never work. When that is the scenario, so the fragmentary accounts of, other types of societies, his scheme could not be applied to the caste system. Say, for example, it's totally different scenario. He spoke about class, not about caste system. So, because caste system was, even today you see the caste system. The form changes, content remains the same. Got the idea? So it is that when that is the scenario, the scheme could not be applied to the caste system. You can apply in class if at all, not in caste system. So something is workable in one situation may not be workable everywhere. So it is that way, ladies and gentlemen. So we are talking about, that the very criticism of, that the Karl Marx, especially over the fast contribution, we are talking about historical materialism. So not only that, there is no warrant or authorization, that for the belief that historical materialism justifies historical apocalypse. Apocalypse movie you would have watched, towards destruction or end of the world. So what will happen? Primitive society, ancient society, Asiatic society, feudal society, capitalist society, then establishment of classless communism, then that is the end of the society. That's what Karl Marx. Hello? Do you think, there won't be survival of the society after that? It's why the apocalypse way, the destruction, that is the end of the society. No. That's like, a prophet, like Messiah. He is criticized that way. That is not end. Because everything, the continuity, the change with continuity is the principle everywhere, whether it is in economic sphere or global international state system, even in diplomatic angle, we say the change with continuity. Karl Marx, you said change, but it continues. It's not stoppage. It's not a full stop. Parimal B. Khar, criticism. Not only that, so the materialistic interpretation of history is incorrect, for it exaggerates the role of economic factors. Got the point now? So, it's all about, one-to-one role. It is not must, it is nice to have like that. Of course, must in some situations. If you don't have no money, no life. No, it's not like that. No money, you generate money. How? That's exaggeration. It will be nice if you have money, otherwise you create, generate. It is that way. So materialistic interpretation of the history is incorrect because it exaggerates the role of economic factors, because you have to understand most of the wars and conflicts in different parts of the world happen not because of the economic factors. Seligman. For India's independence, of course, economic exploitation, you can also look at, that's why you got, A.R. Desai looking at Indian independence as through Marxism angle. It may be, that you can also see, we want freedom, the self-rule, Swaraj. That may be on freedom ground, independence ground. More than, that, of course, no economic freedom. There comes, further specialization to some extent. And most of the wars, fought for supremacy, to enforce supremacy. So even the Middle East region, that the West Asia region, that the very United States of America, to show its supremacy. Otherwise, that all Al-Qaeda, all forces, that were developed by, nurtured by these elements so as to fight, that USSR then during Cold War, and ultimately what happened? They became weapons to destroy United States of America. The Twin Tower attack, everything what happened, Al-Qaeda, Osama bin Laden, the story. Not only that, they started taking asylum in Islam nations. It became almost like the conflict of two civilizations, the Christianity versus, Islam like. Even today, you see the remnants now in new avatar, ISIS. Of course, we say it's over, but again, they are resurfacing, very well. It's that way. So what, when you talk about ISIS, they are talking about establishment of a caliphate, Islamic caliphate, the Sunni kingdom in the world. So that's for religious reasons, not for economic reasons. So the wars and conflicts in different parts of the world, not because of the economic factors, you got other factors too. Ladies and gentlemen, we criticize, very Karl Marx that way. Economic conditions determine social life implies, very good afternoon, Vishal. Economic conditions determine social life implies the theory of measurement. How much money if you have, you can have social life, good social life. Is there any measurement? So money is not the factor to decide your happiness. The attachment ultimately leads to, that it has got its own problem. So it's not outside in, ladies and gentlemen, even the happiness, it is inside out. Everything is inside. Unfortunately, we are searching from outside the world. We don't understand the potential. Of course, it may be a spiritual way of looking at things. Got the idea? It is that way we are talking about. So that's what even in Tamil there is this thing. Irukkum idathai vittu illada idam thedi engengyo alaigirai ஞான தங்கமே. Everything is here. You got wonderful machine here. Aladdin's, that wonder lamp here you're talking about. you just, that you can make best out of it. You have to work on it, ladies and gentlemen. It is that way. So economic conditions determining social life, it's a theory of measurement. You talk about yardstick, a parameter. But there is no such theory. How much money if I have, I'll be happiest person in the world. Ladies and gentlemen, for your kind information, richest countries are not happiest countries in the world. Even the gross national happiness, speaking in such a way, not rich countries are happiest countries in the world. Countries like Iceland, the Scandinavian countries, no way matching with, the so-called, the economic superpowers. And even the Thimphu, Bhutan Thimphu, which gave this idea, the very happiest people in the world, the Bhutan. For that, you don't need money. To be happy, you don't need money. There are so many things. Right? It is that way. When you know the reality in life, how come, that Karl Marx can talk about this theory of measurement or yardstick? On that ground also, that he's getting criticized. Ladies and gentlemen, I think it is the right time we have to move to mode of production. One second, please. I'm sorry. I started, Vishal, actually this class has started around 2:30. It will go up to 4:30 or maybe some more time also, because this is Karl Marx. Yes, it is that way. Ladies and gentlemen, right, the next contribution on the part of Karl Marx, once you finish this session, Vishal, you can watch all my previous videos and to have, more ideas, to understand better. Don't worry, you won't be missing anything, right? And now you can continue just how I am speaking. Mode of production, yes, the next contribution. But you know what it is? We spoke already. Mode of production is otherwise called economic organization. When you say mode of production which is equivalent to FOP, so because MOP which is equal to FOP ROP. MOP, mode of production, of course, let me write, I think though here, MOP which is equal to FOP plus ROP, forces of production and relations of production. Economic organization is decided by the nature of production sphere, the forces, the capacity of the society in running that production. Not only that, the relations arising out of that production sphere. So I must keep on emphasizing this. Primitive society, ancient society, Asiatic, feudal, capitalism. What is that? This is what the order. Primitive communism, absence of classes, where everything is for everyone, no conflict. But whereas that there came the ownership came, the slave owners, masters, slaves. Slaves, they have become commodity. And there came feudalism. Feudalism, of course, landlords, agricultural society, landowners and agricultural laborers, serf. They can be compared even with European society, estate system. Then comes the surplus, ultimately leading to establishment of factory. You call capitalistic mode of production. Factory-based mode of industrial society. There comes owners, workers, capitalist workers, bourgeois proletariats, otherwise called. You see, every stage, you have two classes, haves, have-nots. And ultimately what happened? This particular thing, it's not only that, the Asia-like countries, you got, socialistic country, we got state managers, of course, bureaucracy. Of course, we've got executives, political executives, bureaucrats who run the nation. We send them. People elected representatives ultimately ruling the country. That measures India, they chose socialism. The very Nehru model, of course, chose that socialism model, not in line with capitalism in the beginning. Very well, given the fact India's the wide rampant problems, poverty, the inequality. So Nehru chose, that socialism. But of course, we are arresting to some extent gap, and we are also heading towards market economy, capitalist economy. That's totally different scenario, because once again, let's bring Karl Marx here. Change is permanent, change is constant. Desperate times, desperate measures, you got your own justifications. So in the socialism, of course, state managers, executives and workers. What happened? The revolution leads to ultimately the classless communist society. Of course, it may be looking like, that evolutionary principle, but in my opinion, from classless society to again classless society. From primitive communism to modern communism. It looks like cyclical. That's what I used to tell. Karl Marx maybe would have spoken about the evolutionary like principle, path model, but for me, it is, that from primitive communism, unconscious communism to natural communism to conscious communism. Modern communism. Ladies and gentlemen, it is that way. It is the right time. Of course, mode of production is all about economic organization. We elaborated already. Let's go faster because you know it. Production in material life. Production of material life. This is, according to Karl Marx, first historical act. A fundamental condition in all history. The moment you enter into production sphere, there arises a relationship. Are you owner or worker? So there comes, relations of production, ROP. Because not only that, in the production sphere, the nature of the production decided by the forces, the capacity of the society. But there is always conflict between the forces of production and relations of production. You know very well the interplay of dialectics, the contradiction between forces of production and relations of production. Even within relations of production, the conflict between haves and have-nots. Why? Because the relationship is not hobnobbing, it's not friendly. It is otherwise called exploitative. That is why struggle, that is why antagonism, that is why contradiction, that struggle leading to change from one society to another. So for Karl Marx, this mode of production is analytical tool, because based on economic organization as a measurement, as yardstick, he started analyzing the society. Because materialism, money is the matrix, not like Hegel. Hegel used ideas. That's why Karl Marx's contribution is called historical materialism or dialectic materialism. Not like Hegel, that dialectic idealism. Ladies and gentlemen, it is that way. So Karl Marx used mode of production as analytical tool. But the theoretical concern, his concern about exploitative capitalism, especially in the industrial mode of production, the capitalistic society, where the exploitation is severe, that leads to revolution. World proletariats, unite together. உழைக்கும் தோழர்களே ஒன்று கூடுங்கள். That is the point. Once again, I know parallelly I'm translating, don't worry. The people from other states, please do not worry. Whatever I speak, I think it's also opportunity for you to learn, few Tamil words as I learned Hindi in my all my guest lectures in different parts of India, you know very well. Ladies and gentlemen, it is that way. So what is the point finally? It is economic substructure, economic infrastructure, shaping superstructure. It is your position in economic institution. With that, you are capable of commanding your position in rest of the institutions, whether it is political, religious, educational, whatever it may be. Even the rest of the caste identity, you know, that other identities you have in your life. Of course, the very model, same. Primitive communism, ancient slave production, feudalism, land-based ownership, then comes capitalism. This is what the diagram, the mode of production is a criteria based on which the whole society got analyzed. He took into account the whole society in terms of series of stages. That's why it is called historical materialism. The tool, his analytical tool or theoretical concern is capitalist society. Analytical tool is mode of production, or you say economic organization. This is otherwise MOP, which is equal to FOP plus ROP. Ladies and gentlemen, this is very, very fundamental in sociology. That's why we are taking much time. I want you to understand. You have to watch me closely, you know, that you understand me closely so that you are very strong. Just revision is needed after this class for you. That's all. I think, you know, we are on duty. Ladies and gentlemen, it is the right way. So the three aspects of production, as we spoke, as Karl Marx, you know, said, the forces, relations, mode. MOP, which is equal to FOP plus ROP, but conflict between FOP and ROP, even the relations of production, between two relations, there is a conflict, antagonism, because of the perceived exploitation, you know well. Next, if you want to understand the class struggle, the class antagonism, without these elements, FOP, ROP, MOP, we can never understand. Three aspects of production sphere. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the right time. Let me take you to the next slide. What is this? Especially commodity fetishism. See, what is fetish? A primitive religion, you might be knowing. Otherwise, the primitive form of religions, you would have heard totemism, animism, bungaism. What is totemism? Totem, you worship a plant or animal. Even today you worship. We are going to elaborate in Emil Durkheim, Elementary Forms of Religious Life. He spoke about primitive forms of religions. He found how the religion identified in those. Otherwise, to qualify you know, that institution called religion, what are all the elements needed? So in that analysis, he spoke about primitive form of religion, especially the Australian aborigine. The totemism he took into account. Totem, a plant or animal you worship. You do even today, ladies and gentlemen. You know that there is, you know, a song in Tamil movie, Nee Kudutha Kalkuda Single Sami Anadu. So what is the point? You worship even a brick as your God. You worship brick as your God. Sometimes, you know, that the cow dung, you know that ultimately, and are you aware, you know, that the excrete of, you know, that the cow we take and we make, you know, a player out of it, and, you know, ultimately we worship. We worship, you know, that banyan tree, neem tree, Ragu Kedu temple. You worship snakes. You worship Garuda. You worship, you know, dog as Bhairava. A plant or animal is worship, as if it has got spirit in it. It is you add value, you put, then you start worshipping. So this is called, you know, any plant, anything, any object can be worshipped. That's called fetishism, as if it has got power. The commodity fetishism is all about that. You treat a particular, you know, that object or thing as if it has got power, then you start worshipping. Today, you are also worshipping the commodity, because you are running after, oh my God, please bless me, Rolls Royce. Oh my God, please bless me, chartered flight. Oh my God, please bless me, bank savings. Oh my God, please bless me, you know, a Porsche villa. You are running after product. You are running after commodity. You worship commodity. You respect. You respect things only with price tags. This is also worshipping, but you worship commodities. This is what Karl Marx says, you know, but Marxism says religion is opiate of masses, drug. Religion is drug. Marxists will never, you know, that indulge in prayer. You would have seen. They hate. Otherwise, you know, religion is a tool for exploiting people. It's a newfound tool according to Marxism. But they say in the industrial society, you worship products, you worship commodities. That is called commodity fetishism. So the product, economic resources, you know, command value, then rest of the things in the society. That is what the meaning. You worship commodities. You are predominantly influenced by the commodity, ladies and gentlemen. So this he justifies by surplus production theory, the mode of production. Even T.B. Baltimore, reinforcing these points. What is that? Surplus production. It says this is the production sphere. You contribute something, what you get back. Say for example, only when you contribute for 10 lakhs, you will be paid 1 lakh as salary. This is a yardstick witness in corporate. What you contribute, what you are paid back. The difference, the 9 lakhs appropriate by the capitalists as a profit. This is a production sphere, ladies and gentlemen, surplus theory. Surplus value theory. What you contribute in the production sphere, what you get back in return. Then you can ask me, sir, what about their infrastructure? What about their risk taking? What about their taxation? There are so many factors. In spite of that, if not one, at least you give 2, 3 like that. They can. But otherwise, they are not ready to come, because the motto of corporate is running after the notion called profit. That's why government's coming up with notion called corporate social responsibility. Hello, you have to pay. The 2 to 3% of your, the transaction you have to spend to the very society from which by exploiting you get the resources, you earn profit. Even scientific social responsibility we are talking about. Whatever may be, what you contribute, what you get back in return, this difference is being appropriated by the capitalists as a profit. This theory of surplus value justifying, the very mode of production has got exploitation. Otherwise, even we can also use the poverty, as I told you many times, according to Karl Marx. Poverty is not because of the absence of resources. Something which is meant for you has been already blocked by someone. As I told you, maybe countries, taxation mechanism, 50% of the tax may be, because what you earn, you have to pay 50% tax, 30% income tax, and around, the 20%, GST, whatever may be, you get only, if you work for 1 lakh, you get only 50,000 rupees. So with that, that you are unable to meet your, social sectors, maybe education institution or health sector, whatever may be, apart from your needs, then how come you can save? How come you can invest? How come it will create demands in the market? How come the economy can move to the next level? So this is the problem we are talking about today. What is the point? So otherwise, say for example, instead of 1 lakh, if you are paid, some 3 lakhs, maybe you spend 1 lakh, you save 2 lakhs per month. With that, that you invest. Probably if you use some that Swift car with your that maybe available resources, probably if you get 3 lakhs, maybe you go for that one Honda Accord, Honda City, or at least that A4, maybe Q3 RD, whatever maybe I'm talking about, ladies and gentlemen. So the poverty is not that absence of resources or lack of access to the resources. Poverty is because of exploitation. Something which is meant for you has been blocked by someone else already. Maybe that is what industrial society, that is what economic exploitation by capitalist society. This is what justified. This is what that justified by the theory called theory of surplus value. Why? The theory of surplus value says what you contribute, what you get back in return, the difference is being appropriated by the capitalists as a profit. Otherwise, this, that surplus production on the part of capitalist society responsible for, they keep on expanding the production sphere. But the worker is same worker, maybe with increase in some DA, that house renting allowance, HRA, whatever may be, some bonus like that. But rich gets richer, poor gets poorer. Poverty is not the scarcity of resources, absence of resources. Poverty is because of the exploitation. That is what, that this perceived exploitation. Once workers become aware of it, there comes revolution. A class in itself becoming class for itself. There comes, the situation is ripe for revolution. Objective class becoming subjective class, we say. We are going to discuss in future. Whatever may be. So, Karl Marx says, not the consciousness, not the ideas of men that determines their existence, but their social reality, the reality, existence, the material resources responsible for shaping human consciousness. Your level of thought, level of maturity decided by your level of infrastructure also. There is also theory getting justified. Naturally, that is why poor people are very pessimistic. They look at everybody as if they are going to exploit them. Whereas rich people, that, of course, they look at, the people in different way. We can exploit this guy. we can manipulate this guy. That is also, the theory we are talking about, whatever may be. So this, your level of ideas, it's because of your level of infrastructure. your level of accessibility to modern amenities. Life becomes easy, comfortable. So what you will say? But there are, oh, we have to walk this much distance. You take car, but how come you can expect a poor guy to have a car? Life becomes easy for the people with infrastructure. So life becomes, their notion life is easy, but life is horrible for the poor people because absence of the resources by exploitation. So it is not the consciousness of man that determines the existence, but it is existence. This is version. It is other way around also can be justified in Hegel version. Other way around also correct. But this is Karl Marx. This is how Karl Marx. Material resources responsible for change in the world. With material resources, you can generate ideas. But even in practical, the consideration, people say if you're running short of resources, that siddhi buddhi. People say buddhi won't work. Financial loss, all those things, sometimes you are off. People talk that way. Karl Marx is relevant there. It is that way, ladies and gentlemen. I think it is right time. What is the point? So I think it is the next contribution over. After discussing historical materialism, we spoke about mode of production, otherwise called economic organization. Now we are going to attack Karl Marx. What is that? Criticism. Infrastructure shaping superstructure. But association between economic ownership and political ownership, a basic postulate of Marxism, is inconsistent. As I told you, Karunanidhi reached this level. Of course, Dr. Kalanjar, you call in Tamil Nadu circle, he is no more a political leader, well known for his political acumen. Not because of the ownership over economic resources, because of his Tamil oratory skill, literary skill, orator, and ultimately he became politically very sharp, and he's well known for that. That the same way, and the party structure, organization in such a way. Even the Jayalalitha, MGR, of course, late Selvi Jayalalitha, late Dr. MGR, you're talking, all those people, because of their charismatic leadership, nothing to do with money. They reached top position not because of the economic institution and its dominance, but because of non-economic institution. So that connectivity is wrong, rejected. That's according to Max Weber. But you got another theory in the economic institutions, political institution. We are going to discuss the circulation of elect or ruling class elect. If you are strong in money, the economic institution, you are capable of influencing political institution, as Ambani, Adani's, even Vijay Mallaya, Nirav Modi escaping because of that. All those things very well. But whereas a poor guy, unable to pay two-wheeler loan, will be arrested. How he will be harassed, the family will be harassed. But Vijay Mallaya, we are very happy to that leave Vijay Mallaya and Nirav Modi. But of course, the mechanisms working, and a special investigation team, that's totally different scenario. Even to bring back the stashed away money, the Swiss accounts. But still, there is syndicate working to protect the interests, irrespective of political ideology. Why? The infrastructure will take care of itself. Ruling class ideology. Got the idea? The connivance, political connivance, whoever may be. It is that way. So the Max Weber, the talking about, criticizing very mode of production connectivity. And not only that, that others joining, main currents in sociological thought, sociology of knowledge, the Sri Wright Mills, main currents in sociological thought by Raymond Aron, and even the conflict perspective, another sociologist, the Ralph Darentoff we are talking about. So all these guys ultimately, that joining the criticism with Max Weber, with same school, conflict tradition we are talking about. So forget this Raymond Aron's, that a thought process. I think it is right time to move to next level. What is that? Alienation. Yes, even today you see, there are guys without hope. You will see the people, maybe given COVID situation, loss of jobs, loss of livelihoods, the loss of lives of their own close relatives. Otherwise they are afraid. Otherwise their industries, factories got stopped. Otherwise it had impact on the particular person's salary reduction. Yes, maybe for business people, the impact on economy, the savings and associated, that the financial commitments. What will happen? So they will get alienated. They will feel, that something, that they will feel aloof, state of self-estrangement. Even today you would have witnessed. But this is Karl Marx version in the exploitative, that capitalist society. The economic exploitation, the capitalistic society, ultimately responsible, forcing an individual to feel detached. Overexploited individuals, rather, overexploited workers in the capitalist society. As long as you don't realize that they are exploiting you, you are very happy. My management is doing fantastic for me. Hey, come on, what's your kid's name? he will call immediately, hey Mukesh, hey Anil. What? Because probably that guy is working in Reliance. Mukesh Ambani, Anil Ambani. Probably he will be very happy to name after Mukesh, Nina, Nita Ambani. Why? Because he says that it's because of all these things, lifestyle, because of my owner. No, when his own comrades say, Are Buddhu, you have to understand the fact behind this. Yes, Akshata Patil. And you can also there, but plus that you watch all my videos already available in the YouTube as well as Unacademy special classes platform. I will be also teaching there. Right, it's that way. What is that? Of course, we are talking about this, worker naming his own, kids after, that owners, not knowing that establishment is responsible for exploitation. So what happens ultimately? This, his own, that counterpart, another worker will make him understand, so the very theory of surplus value I told you, what you are giving in and what you are getting back from the production sphere, how you are subjected to exploitation. Other, you are, what car you have got only, that Swift. Oh, see, if you would have, that paid properly compensated, by this time you would have got at least Honda Accord or Honda City. Oh, is it so? Tomorrow, that I will apply, that I'll meet Notary Public, I'll go for, changing my kid's name, because this guy understood how he is getting exploited. He became ferocious. He starts hating his owner, the management system. Wow. Over the days, it is that way. Ultimately what happened? The class in itself becoming class itself. That's what we are talking about. So it is the continuous exploitation, the exploitative environment, the capitalistic society, that the workers getting alienated, feeling state of aloof, self-estrangement. What is that? Otherwise, the labor which is external to the worker, you are the worker, you got, that your own skills, but it came. It has become, that it went out of you because you contributed your labor. It has become dead. But that labor got converted into product now. That product became part of production sphere. It enriched your owner. It has become big establishment. This labor went out of you, became dead labor, dominating this living labor called laborer. Let me repeat once again. The very, that work, your contribution, the labor went out of you, became dead labor. It's no more part of you now, because it got converted into product. That's part of the production sphere. That's in the custody of management. Now it has become next level. Now it is dominating you. That dead labor went out of you, now dominating you, challenging you, questioning you. You are the living labor called laborer. So dead labor dominating living labor. That's also the Marx, that version, Karl Marx version. What is that? So the labor is external to the worker, and which is forced. You are forced to, bring out your potential. Under exploitative environment, that you got in the name of incentives, in the name of, all those, that otherwise you will be losing job, maybe threatening. So guys are afraid of, losing job, maybe the insecurity. They are ready to work in that way. So what will happen? So that labor went out of you is also by force. You have to strictly adhere to the rules and regulations of that particular management. So whatever may be, the lack of sense of control over the social world and dead labor, of course, the labor went out of you, became capital or product, part of production sphere, dominating the living labor. You are the laborer, the living labor called proletariat, working class, ladies and gentlemen. So it is that way. It is state of aloofness, the feeling on the part of the worker, especially because of the industrial society, the capitalistic environment, exploitative environment. Not only that, we are going to talk about, it is appropriation of the capital, and also talking about, you have been exploited, and beyond that, you have been supplied only inhuman working conditions. They are not bothered about the situation with which you are working. They are very keen in extracting work out of you. When that is the scenario, it is inhuman working conditions. I don't know, people will say, whether you take helicopter or cycle or two-wheeler, I want, that things to be done by today. When that is the attitude, you just imagine, sir, this is today's lockdown, sir. People will be talking. It is that way. So inhuman working conditions, ladies and gentlemen, this is what called, exploitation. Yes, it is that way. And what is that? The worker's feeling, the feeling of self-estrangement. His self gone out. He's no more. He's alive. Almost like dead body. because he has been exploited. So all energy gone, it is that way. So the feeling of self-estrangement, a socio-psychological condition on the part of worker or laborer from the social existence, which is the subjective feeling. I'm not talking about from objective sense. The worker's own feeling, laborer's own feeling after exploitation, how he will be, how his thoughts will be, the feelings will be. It is a self-estrangement. His self gone out of, he is no more himself. She is no more herself. She has been used, he has been used, manipulated. You feel very bad about you. You don't like you. You start hating yourself when that is a scenario. That may happen in all, the exploitative working environments, ladies and gentlemen. It is that way. So alienation, this particular alienation may happen at various levels for the workers. You get alienated from the product. I told you already. Since you are working in Mercedes-Benz company, you won't be given every year appreciating your contribution one car. Especially Mercedes, you won't be even tire. You know very well, that's totally different scenario. Because realistically speaking, you may be highly specialized in a particular environment. You don't know what's happening in the overall, because the given complex mechanism, industrial society, given division of labor, the compartmentalization of labor, you don't know about what's happening in the rest of the spheres. You may be highly specialized in the particular environment. So you are getting alienated from the whole process also. It is not necessary. It's not possible also. The whole process, thrown out of you maybe after retirement. So because of the thing, you have been exploited continuously. You get alienated from yourself. You start hating you. And finally, what happened? When you are not a composed personality, society or community will start hating you. This guy is no more interesting. He's not inspiring. Throw away. Hey, don't talk to him. If you get call from him, just reject. He won't give you energetic talk. Waste, reject. Society starts rejecting you. Then you get alienated from the community also. The society wants that animal spirit, so that your speech, your writing, that whatever may be from your side, that should take them to the next level. Otherwise they won't encourage you, whoever may be. That we are witnessing today, day-to-day life. Why people love Sampath, that even my friends who are maybe students, whatever may be, I'm some way, that making difference. Otherwise, I will be thrown. That's naturally, it may be applicable in your case also. Hope, you understand. UPSC should not throw you out. Rather, that should take you to the right position. For that, you have to make difference. I think you understand better. It is that way. So what is that? In the capitalistic industrial mechanism, you got extreme division of labor that leads to specialization. So what happened, right? Say for example, in making a shirt, you just that you think about that the branded shirt what you are wearing, of course, whatever it may be. In making a shirt, then ultimately it will be exported. There, one particular company that will recommend parameters. Accordingly, these guys have to work. Ultimately, the label will be so something 300, 400 rupees shirts will become 3,000 rupees to our same market with foreign label. You know very well what's happening. So in that particular company, you just imagine one guy is keep on working in buttoning session, machine buttoning, maybe one particular division, maybe packing. 20 years you are in the same environment, in the sense how you will feel. The monotony, drudgery, boredom in that particular job. So what will happen? You won't be appreciated well, because you are yet another worker, a cog on a machine, a small, the molding error, something you see, some projection in the molding, right? So because of that, getting affected, it won't stop machine functioning. So you are almost treated like a mere cog on a machine. A worker is treated like that. Who is that? He's worker. Oh, this. So that's what I used to recall. When JFK visited NASA, that time that there was the janitor brooming, and he immediately JFK asked, "Come on, janitor, Mr. Janitor, what you are doing?" Then immediately the janitor replied, "Mr. President, I am helping NASA to put a man on the moon." What an environment! What a talk! So even the worker in a particular environment should feel connected with the organization and organization's purpose. You have to see everything in a big picture. That's what Dr. Kalam used to do in ISRO. That I heard so many times about him, the stories. He will try to connect with you as Steve Jobs connected. Dr. Kalam will try to connect, as Dr. Karan Bedi madam doing, Pondicherry, wonderful service, trying to connect, the corporate social responsibility, corporate people with the demands of the service, from the people, and employing the government official to solve the purpose. It is that way. I want you to be part of connectivity. It is that way. So you feel, that important. You should, only by making you feel you are important, I can extract more from you. Otherwise, I can make you how relevant you are in the organization. not by maligning you, not by rejecting you, ladies and gentlemen. So it is that way we are talking about, that, but that's not happening in the industrial capitalistic, that is not possible given the vast size, the industrial society, the payroll and management, their priorities. What will happen ultimately? A worker is feeling reduced, a mere cog on a machine, nothing else. In the extreme division of labor, specialization in that, complex mechanism. Not only that, it's a process of objectification. You are also treated like object, a commodity. I told you, the commodity fetishism world. But of course, you are alive, but in spite of that, you are treated as, what is this guy? Monthly salary, total package, okay, settle. What is this? It's a process of objectification. Otherwise, you are treated like object. It is otherwise, that you feel like, object, that you feel that you are not, that human being with rights or, feelings like that. So process of objectification under special historical, circumstances of the capitalism you talk about. The human beings are reduced to commodities, things, that thing we are talking about, ladies and gentlemen. Otherwise, you talk about, excessive production. We are living in the world, of course, the excessive production from, the very all developed countries. Otherwise, they bring, technology and they produce in our own setup, assembly line working here, whatever may be. This excessive production, mass production leading to mass consumption. Of course, we are consumers. In Indian context, I am talking about. So this excessive production, ultimately what happened, people running after products, as I told you, commodity fetishism, you start worshipping, the products with price tags. No value for human beings, no respect for human beings. This situation also gives you alienation. Got the idea? So I'm not talking about you go and unnecessarily talk with your security people or workers. At least you should respect, if not interaction, but when necessary you interact, you treat them nicely. When there is interaction situation, I'm not voluntarily asking you to go and salute, talk, that rubbish things. That's not needed. At least you respect the human being, value the human being. When that is not happening, the highly, the capitalistic establishment, industrial establishment, that leads to alienation. The workers get alienated. Sir, I'm not respected. Why should I work here? Sir, more than money, I need life, sir. Life without self-respect, I don't want, sir. There are people speaking this way. Sometimes you choose job not for money, because of the respect. Because you are made in such a way that you are a very important person there. It is that way. So alienation we are talking about, of course, where in the excessive production that makes a situation like commodity fetishism. People worship only products. People treat human beings like products. What is the solution? Only by going for revolution, establishment of classless communist society where everything is for everyone. That is what solution recommended by Karl Marx. What happened? Here you come to know this one, the level of alienation we are talking about. Of course, ladies and gentlemen, what is that? So when the technology at the peak level, alienation will be at the peak level. When you start controlling the technology, so that the alienation comes down. Got the idea, na? So as long as when the technology at the peak level, because technology dominates the sphere, technology decides. Technology, it's a machine. It's not with you would have watched movie Endiran, the Robo 1, Robo 2, how the machine. The feeling comes, what will happen? That's totally different scenario. You watched everything. It is that way. The technology without feelings, of course, it may not take into account the self-respect, human respect, whatever may be, on the part of workers. What will happen ultimately? Alienation will be more. People thrown out. That's even sometimes people becoming like machines. The monotonous, stereotyped jobs will make them in such a way. Finally, they will realize where I am going, where I am heading. Oh, is it money? Oh, no, stop everything, man. So they start realizing there are so many things in life, wonderful things, not mere money. So it is that way you talk about that feeling on the part of worker. Technology, when it is at the peak level, alienation also will be at the peak level. So this contribution of Karl Marx alienation, you come to know through economic and philosophical manuscript. Various contributions, there you find this particular notion, the conception, the contribution, whatever you talk. So this is for mains, especially optional subject for sociology. Ladies and gentlemen, yeah, Vishal, you understood, right? Yes. So what is this? So alienation may be described as a condition in which men are dominated by the forces of their own creation. And ultimately, what happened, right? That confronts you, that makes you get alienated. You created all these sources and you are responsible for all the sources, but they are questioning you who you are. Do you understand what I'm talking, ladies and gentlemen? Say, for example, I used to tell this story. Say for example, the sugar factory. And you would have seen, that the people everywhere, you know that you got your own sugar now, white sugar especially, even palm sugar, whatever maybe. See, white sugar, let us take into account. What happened, right? It would have been grown by, the village area, of course, the agriculture, the planting, ultimately, that watering, ultimately, taking care all around, applying fertilizer. In every stage, you got workers, agricultural laborers. And finally, that ultimately cutting and packing and transporting logistics and reaching, that the sugar factory, very well after some time. Maybe the 8 months, 12 months of the production sphere, then after cutting, sizing, logistics, it reaches the factory. And ultimately there again laborers, they're taking that, the sugar cane, that ultimately the bunch of sugar cane, the stems ultimately throwing into crushing machines. It will go for crushing. The molasses, the very, that the liquid juice comes out, ultimately it will go for chemical treatment. After that chemical treatment, when it comes out, there will be crystalline, pure white, very attractive sugar. You would have witnessed in the sugar factories. When you go and touch the sugar said, "Don't touch me, you are dirty," sugar said. When worker trying to taste, "Don't touch," no, I'm just I'm just giving imaginary situation. The sugar said, "Don't touch me." So ultimately this worker got, hey, from that agriculture, of course there are different agricultural laborers. On behalf of the one moral voice, I'm saying, hey, from agricultural land to here factory and to this level sugar, we were ultimately responsible. But you are asking me, don't touch. It is I am responsible for making you as this level of sugar, but you are telling me, don't touch me. The forces for which you are responsible, you created all the sources. Ultimately, the forces questioning you who you are. You feel alienated. You feel you're thrown out of the job. This you would have witnessed in joint family system, the rural areas. Sometimes that the first son will be having the intention of going to establish separate family for some reason. The dad feels alienated. If you go out of the family, it is out of that you are affecting my self-respect. After my death, you can go. When it's questioning, challenging his authority. So these are all the sentiments we have crossed in life. Ladies and gentlemen, it is that way. So alienation may be described as a condition in which men are dominated by the forces. You created all these establishments, but they question you who you are. We also talk about, the various stories, of course, in the building construction, you would have seen, all those, the casurina, the wooden. Nowadays, people are using, the metal structures to support the building construction works. Even hollow bricks in place of, bricks you are talking about. So those days, what happened, we are talking about, the casurina, wooden, that stems would be utilized to support the ceiling, RCC structure, everything. What will happen after everything is over? All those things will be removed, put at the back. On the day of that housewarming ceremony, there will be that in front of the home there will be 2 banana trees, fresh trees will be cut and put in front of that home, and it will be given all those light decoration and all this that things, the respect it will be commanding. Whereas the very casurina woods responsible for making of the that the building will be laying at the back. Nobody will respect. But the very that casurina woods, of course, the wood structures, they are ready to support another building in the making. That is what life. The workers are like that. You are responsible for making the entire structure, but your possession is like that in the background, or you are ready for another construction. So unassuming quality that you can compare with that. Ladies and gentlemen, I think that's, so alienation happens, it's because of this thing. They are not properly compensated, they are alienated by exploitation, inhuman working conditions at various levels. It is the self-estrangement, state of aloofness on the part of an individual. I think this is fantastic, ladies and gentlemen. Let me take you to the next level. We are going to criticize this concept called alienation. How workers feeling aloof, the powerlessness, meaninglessness, how do they feel? Yes, alienation need not be always because of that this economic exploitation in the capitalist society. Sometimes rationalized bureaucracy, rationalized structure of bureaucracy, So you got hierarchy. When lower official may be brilliant enough, trying to contribute one idea, he may not be accepted. They'll say, hey, as a junior clerk, what do you know? Come on. I think you would have watched that movie. And that Gabbar Singh, I believe. Gabbar Singh in Hindi. In Tamil, Ramana movie actually. So that the police mechanism, India against corruption mechanism actually. So ultimately one police car driver, he's also police, will crack the entire case, identify who is responsible for that particular mission. And all high level officials will not be giving sufficient space to that lower level worker, though he is brilliant enough, and he will avail one day leave and he will start connecting different dots, ultimately understanding the principle and identifying, locating a new officer appointed for the very purpose will start recognizing this junior officer for his talent. You would have watched in the movies. So what happened? You just imagine that lower level officials, though he is talented, he may not be respected. Even rationalized structure of bureaucracy sometimes by not properly recognizing the talents, because you go by book, you go by hierarchy, you go by experience. So what happened? Alienation may be also because of that, the rationalized bureaucratic structure, especially in the modern industrial advanced society, even to increase the efficiency of the capitalistic establishment, the establishment of bureaucracy. That's what Max Weber's opinion. Right. So work come leisure. Not only that, you work hard, you relax. Work, leisure. Work, leisure. What happened ultimately? Stupefaction. People call this also leads to, you feel bored. What is this? No swarasyam. People call, that nothing here. There is no, I think, I feel routine, stereotype. There also you get, this alienation. Stereotype life, monotonous, drudgery, boredom. So there also, there may be the possibility. And not only that, the modern tertiary service sector we call, especially, you talk about, especially the receptionist job, very well. The five-star hotel, if you see, there will be a receptionist. And should have been speaking with some, other receptionists like that, And see, otherwise, sometimes you see the guy come, hey, he's going to. So the moment the customer appears, yes, sir, what can I do? With smile. Very artificial, ladies and gentlemen. Even marketing executives in the roadside Europe, sir, you need not buy this book. You please have a look, sir. We feel very pity. Oh, please don't waste time. I don't need. I'm sorry. But in spite of that, they won't leave you. Everywhere when you enter into the airport, roadside, some nearby malls. Maybe they've got, but they are not. So they are forced to, that it's not selling yours. It's not selling the product. Selling yourself. What do you sell? Do you sell your self-respect, ladies and gentlemen? What you're going to get out of that? It is that way. So the growth of tertiary service sector. We are living in the world where this service sector ultimately responsible for producing marketing personalities. You sell yourself. Modern industrial societies results in alienation among white-collar workers. See what happened as a part of management. One day, even I was, chief operating officer. Those days, the project manager in IT world, and for some time, government. Then I became entrepreneur. That's history. But the point is, those days, one day you would have spoke very well about one worker. Fantastic. You contributed well. I appreciate you. Tomorrow let's meet, for new project. So by the evening, that management will take decision. You have to send 100 employees out. You just imagine, tomorrow morning, you have to speak in different tone due to unforeseen situation. Ladies and gentlemen, we are forced to remove some people who joined recently. Sir, yesterday only you appreciated me. What to do? It's management decision. The double standard. You speak in different voice now. So white collar workers, that are producing. What happened ultimately? You need market personalities like that to meet your end. Management has what? So ultimately, you are not yourself. You are forced to speak that way. Given, that scale down process, scale down mechanism, you send some employees. One day, fine morning, company is waiting for you to send you on some other grounds. It's a chain reaction. Continuity. I've seen a lot of managements like that. It is that way. So what is that? Even the receptionist I'm talking about. You are not yourself. The skill with things are replaced by skill with persons. Instead of dealing with one machine, you are dealing with human beings, but you expect the human being to be a machine. But whether fortunately, unfortunately, the human beings are with feelings, self-respect, ladies and gentlemen. That's what C. Wright Mills. It is he who introduced Marxism in the American world. He talks about it. Otherwise, you would have seen all that nowadays in marriage functions. You would have seen that marriage event center, they are not keeping, that few people to receive you, and rather they keep, some machine. It will say, welcome, welcome. It's automated machine. Welcome. So it is that way, ladies and gentlemen. So you expect some, that you expect some sort of, the machines to perform, but the same thing, that you see with human beings. This is what the thing we are talking about, ladies and gentlemen. So it is that way, the decomposition of, that very alienation into powerlessness, isolation, normlessness, self-estrangement, the meaninglessness. These are all various, that the forms, the alienation, that you feel loss of power, you feel isolated, you feel, a society without, that norms, lawlessness. Maybe as Emile Durkheim said, anami, as even R.K. Merton said, that the anami in its various manifestations, the social structure, social goals and means and its incongruence, the same way. And you feel, the self went out of you. And you also talk about, that you feel, there is no meaning in life. It is that attitude. So all these things, that we are talking about. So alienation in different forms. Otherwise, the measurement of this alienation in terms of attitude scale, we are talking about, ladies and gentlemen, whatever may be. So the role of alienation has been exaggerated. That is, another criticism. Francis Abraham, the J.H. Morgan we are talking about. In criticism, it's not only going against, sometimes you give parallel ideas also, alternative ideas also, ladies and gentlemen, for your right, that kind information. So I told you already, Robert Bloomer responsible, the diagram you have seen, the technology in what way related to, when the technology at the peak level, alienation at the peak level. When you start controlling technology, you can bring down the alienation. You start controlling, you start devising mechanisms. We spoke already, struggle between two classes, struggle between haves and have-nots. Ladies and gentlemen, so Karl Marx's contribution is otherwise called Sociology of Class Struggle. That's what the statement he made. History of hitherto all existing society is full of struggle, the struggle between haves and have-nots. What happens, right? In every society, you got two different classes, haves class, have-nots classes, otherwise called two social classes. Like, that, this is what polarization of classes according to Karl Marx. Like North Pole, South Pole, you got in every society two classes, haves class, have-nots class. The social classes, accordingly you talk about, what is that? Owning class, working class, master, slave, landlords, land laborers, capitalists, workers. It is that way. So social class, actually it is derived, the class word derived from Latin term. The social class, what we are talking about, is an economic and also cultural formation. So ownership over economic resources, it is economic term for your kind information, but it is a Latin term. From that you got derived social classes. Similar statuses, collectivity of people enjoying similar relationship with the production sphere, ultimately constituting a class. The similar relationship may be owning relationship or working relationship. So you got two classes, right? So collectivity of people enjoying similar relationship with the production sphere. That is what called classes here. Okay, the class. So social class in Marxian terms is otherwise called, it is aggregate of persons performing same function as workers or as owners in the organization of production. That could be workers or owners. So this is what Bendix, SM, Lipset, that you can also witness in Harlebach's book, the very examples. And beyond that, so class situation of an individual is his market situation. If you are upper class or middle class, accordingly, you are capable of influencing market, your purchasing power, well. So people who share similar life chances are constituting class. So, Max Weber comes and criticizes Karl Marx. Hello, Karl Marx, it's not only money that decides your lifestyle. With money, are you really commanding? There are people with money in the name of simplicity, otherwise they don't have intention to spend money. They want to save, preserve money. They'll be, they won't be spending money otherwise. Max Weber says, that Mercedes-Benz class, there will be club. Enfield, even the students, they have Enfield club. It is that way. The cosmopolitan club we are talking about, only people with that class. Even, that the industrialists who have got problem, that they will be given free counseling by, that the rest of the industrialists. There is a club for that. And for that, entrepreneurs should have transaction more than 1 crore. Ladies and gentlemen, it is that way. So we are talking about all these things, the clubs ultimately. So the classes, that accordingly. So based on life chances, based on lifestyle, that there may be classes, may not be mere ownership over economic resources. Sometimes your lifestyle decides the classes. Haves and have-nots, bourgeois, proletariats, even though living standards of proletariats improve in the capitalistic society, again they are poor. Hello, Sundar Pichai. Hello, Satya Nadella. You may be accumulating that much resources in terms of shares. In spite of that, in those companies, you are worker, maybe premium worker. And capitalism grows like anything. But vis-a-vis the size of the capitalism, your resources you accumulated, you are still worker. That is why it is called pauperization. Ladies and gentlemen, it is vis-a-vis bourgeois pauperization. Got the idea? Na? Rich gets richer, poor gets poorer. The rich will be moving to the next level by incorporation of technology. Poor, even the managerial class, you may be, they're getting much compensation, shares, whatever may be. When you compare with the size of the capitalism, you are still worker. Maybe white collar worker instead of blue collar workers. This is what called, so given that ever expanding mode of, that the capitalist society on profit mode. So the workers always facing proletarianization, pauperization. Not only that, so this private property or accumulation of surplus wealth, forms the basis for development of the class society. The day the very notion came, private property, I want to own this, there came classes, there came fight, there came ultimately contradiction, there came exploitation, there came, ultimately struggle that led to change. This is what the meaning, ladies and gentlemen, everything begins from owning, not for renunciation, as Bhagavad Gita says. So that's what I told you. In West, a guy who owns everything will be respected. But whereas in Eastern Oriental countries, a guy who gave up everything, respected. This is what the cultural difference. And beyond that, that you also come across statements like this. Getter may eat better. Getter may, that sleep better. The getter may eat better. Giver sleeps better. Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you once again. Getter may eat better, but giver sleeps better. Give away, renunciation, give away. It is not renunciation of duty, renunciation in duty. That's what essence of, Nishkama Karma, Bhagavad Gita. I know that spiritual path. So this is Eastern Oriental countries. But they, that, of course, they also started, whether Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, 50% of, there's a club for pledging the resources. More than 50% of the resources, they pledge for, the common purpose. It has become a club. And they are also started embracing even the Kenji Dham, both Steve Jobs and Mark Zuckerberg visited there. After that, having seen Indians connected, that the very Facebook came, connecting people. Steve Jobs also recalls that. So they learn from here, ultimately they implement there, but unfortunately we are learning bad things from them. So please take care of your, westernization. I think, ladies and gentlemen, the theory of surplus value, we are talking about class antagonism, which is sharp in capitalist society. We have seen increasing pauperization of working class, and also that they are becoming continuous that impoverishment we are talking about. So what happened, Karl Marx also says, given all this that situation, exploitative situation, there won't be state, there won't be the political apparatus called state that will wither away. That's what his notion. When the exploitation is sharp, when it is not properly contained, that's what result. So in communist society, nobody won anything, but everybody wants everything. That's what that the Karl Marx contribution, that opinion also. Each individual contributes according to his own ability and receives according to his own needs. That's what Karl Marx version. This is what communism. So otherwise, when the worker is unaware of the exploitation measures by capitalistic establishment, he is said to be living under the consciousness, thinking that his management is doing fantastic, called false class consciousness. The moment you become aware, the very class becoming class for itself. The class in itself is called without awareness of exploitation. Once you become aware, you become, that subjective, it's called class for itself. There comes solidarity, there comes unity, all proletariats unite together, there comes a revolution then, the capitalistic society. Ladies and gentlemen, so the awareness of exploitation, otherwise you are said to be living under false class consciousness. Not only that, so without awareness, you are objective class. The moment you get awareness, it's called subjective class. Beyond that, class antagonism specific to each particular mode of production. As I told you, history of hitherto all existing societies full of struggle. But that leads to the emergence of classes whose interests could no longer be asserted within the framework of the world order. Got the point now? You understand? So, in every stage, you got, the contradiction between two classes. that seed of destruction because of that contradiction, that leads to change. We are talking about within that system, you can never find solution. There comes, that revolution. There comes, ultimately a situation is ripe for change. As within Hinduism, you can never get justice. That's what, one point of time, Dr. Ambedkar said. And he later embraced Buddhism. Mahar movement, you know the story. Within this fold, the caste system, this is history. The same way, within that particular setup, you may not get justice. This is time for revolution. The struggle leads to change. This is what the meaning, according to Lewis Coaster. Within the system, when you can't get justice, that ultimately leads to change by revolution. Especially in the capitalistic exploitative situation, you embrace that radical change. That's what Karl Marx, the communism, speaks. So, and there comes a criticism. Karl Marx, you don't want dictatorship by management. So do you favor dictatorship by proletariats? You want favor rule by workers? That is the end of the society. You don't want rule by owners, but you want rule by workers. Are you favoring the dictatorship by proletariats? There is a criticism against his contribution. What about maybe establishment of communism, the classless society through proletarian revolution is the complete gist of the Karl Marx contribution, ladies and gentlemen. And also, that the very Communist Manifesto, the very, the concept, all these things, with Frederick Engels, that came and we are talking about. So Marx theory of class is comprehensive theory of social change. That's why the change is constant, part of, conflict school of sociology we are talking about. Marxian theory provides excellent framework for the analysis of conflict and change in modern society. This is according to Francis Abraham and J.H. Morgan, thinkers, for which you've got, this is must book. And apart from your IGNOU materials, we are going to talk about it. And conflict theory of Marxian, that it's otherwise called alternative to Western structural functionalism theory, of course, well. And small capitalist, petty bourgeois, lumpen proletariats, we are talking about. And they also enter into, see, on the one side upper class, on the other side middle class. I mean, lower class. What about middle class? There comes another question. In the capitalistic exploitative environment, they can't continue as middle class for long. And they will also come and join lower class. They will get impoverished, pauperization or proletarianization. This is what we are talking about. Even Golthoff, for that we are going to talk about. Let us, that as I told you, right, ladies and gentlemen, the Satya Nadella, even Sundar Pichai, though they are, earning that much, still they are workers in the capitalistic environment, of course. So, that part of proletariat, lumpen proletariats, maybe beggars, they never take part in the process. The small owners, the petty shops, whatever, maybe petty bourgeois, small entrepreneurs, even small capitalists, they all will face the same pauperization. That's the meaning, according to Raymond Aron. Violence, as I told you, the revolution is not ruling out the possibility of violence. Violence is the midwife of, that history. That's according to Karl Marx. And change comes by barrel of a gun. Mao Zedong, hello, the communist leader. Mao Zedong, Mao Zedong, Deng Xiaoping. And later we talk about, that Xi Jinping today. Yes, it's that way. So the class existed in all stages of development except primitive communism. We spoke already. That's according to, the Marx, I think we are talking about, ladies and gentlemen. So the criticism somewhere, this polarization, classifying the whole society into two classes is too simplistic and fallacious. That's what Francis Abraham says. I think I'm sorry for the disruptions. Anyway, it is getting recorded. I think, ladies and gentlemen, I think otherwise, it will be posted in such a way. Right. It is that way, ladies and gentlemen. Let me, that take a few more minutes. We are going to finish it anyway. Right. So, individual way of responding to the exploitative mechanism, totally different. Got the idea? We spoke already. Even class inequalities may not result in power inequalities. And we also talk about, that a life you don't see life as mere conflict and struggle. You also have cooperation, competition, other processes. Even inequalities, class system, all are inevitable. It's not looking at only one way. And beyond that, society also has got order, stability, system. That's what functionalism schools view. The Davis, Wilbert, E. Moore we are talking about. I think it is right time to discuss, that very resources meant for this, thinkers portion. You got IGNOU materials, you got Francis Abraham book also. And if you got any terminologies related confusion, please use the dictionaries, that especially the dictionaries you talk about, William P. Scott or even Oxford or Penguin, you can consult. And base information you can also get from some NCRTs. IGNO is fantastic and Francis Abraham more than sufficient. Beyond that, you watch all my classes. I'm consulting different sources and teaching. Whenever you sit in front of my class, I want you to sit with notes, a note and pen, take notes. I think that's more than sufficient. You understand first, then use all the facts and necessary, that the thinker's name, case studies, what I'm mentioning. That's more than sufficient, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, this is right time, ladies and gentlemen. This is, Success Sampath so far interacted with you, and thanks for watching. That's fantastic, wonderful. I think, this particular, session would have definitely, that would have made difference in your understanding about the social thinkers of sociology, paper 1. This is very, very important, right, of Conflict School of Thought, the very perspective. Please use my referral code, say success, so as to avail the 10% discount. Especially, you please go for, we highly recommend the Iconic program. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. Thanks for the participation, and very good evening. Once again, let's meet tomorrow for some other topics. Thank you so much. Yes, bye. Yes.